bid them Godspeed as they get set for the 3 most dangerous hours in American automobile racing. Your first row on the start of this race will be the number 1 of Jack Dawsey Jr. and the number 10 of Dwayne Lee. The second row, 28 Tim Taylor and 4F Rich Fenwick. A third row of 5R Rodney Sizemore and 3 Mike St. John. The fourth row of 71 Charles Coles and 4 George Sutton. A fifth row, 11B, Gary Bedell, and 9, Darren Sizemore. A sixth row of 33, Doug Gregg, and 87, Danny Turner. A seventh row of 7, Robert Amos, and 44, Bill Tunney Jr. Eighth row from the number 48 of Rodney Smith and the number 17 of Donnie Garrigus. Ninth row of 29, Bob Catron, and 12, Kevin Ford. 10th row, 76, Scott Martin, and 24, Jerry Brown. 11th row, 31, Larry McIntyre, and 09, Gary Early. In the 12th row, 71F, Steve Frost, and 08, Danny Apperson. In the 13th row, the 56 of Jack Dandy and the number 1K of David Staten. And in the 14th and final row on the start, you'll have the number 64 of Steve Reidner and the number 2 of Jerry Whitten. The field now starts to get set for this contest as the pace vehicle is picking up the pace at the north end of the racetrack. 28 cars and drivers will start. Almost twice that number will be sitting back in the pit area waiting for the beginning of the World Championship. Pace car will bring them around one more time as the fireworks light up the night sky. That means that we are just about set for the start of this World Championship here at the Indianapolis Speedrome as Bob Cassie's International Fireworks Display once again signals the entire east side of Indianapolis that the World Championship is about ready to take place. Now we're starting to get down to the serious business of figure 8 racing for the World Championship. The field picks up the pace, almost knocking the pace car out of the way. Pace car is told by radio control, look at this, the field is split already as we come to the green flag at the start of the 1994 World Championship. Jerry Whitten and the number 64 of Steve Reidner got caught by the heavy traffic and we're underway. Already the first alternate, Robbie Loving, has been put onto the racetrack on the first lap. The 2 last world champions race wheel to wheel as they come to the intersection, and Jack Dawsey Jr. picks up where he did last year in the lead. Already trouble for the number 28 of Tim Taylor. The third starter has stalled on the racetrack and is desperately trying to get his car to run. We immediately have a 5-car battle for the lead in the first minute of the 180 that will make up the World Championship. At the intersection, the number 56 of Jan Dagny almost blocked the number 1 of Jack Dawsey Jr., putting the number 4 of Rich Fenwick, the national figure 8 champion, is in the lead. And Dandy is there right in front of the 5-car pack battling for the lead. 1, Dawsey comes back to the lead. Second place, 4F Fenwick. Third place is the number 10 of Dwayne Lee. Dandy is there again as fourth place goes to the number 3 of Mike St. John, and fifth place to the number 4 of George Sutton. I'll give sixth place to the number 9 of Darren Sizemore, and then you've got Kenny Rodney Sizemore, the number 5, the number 1K of Staten, and the number 44 of Tunney. Is somehow the number 4 of Sutton just barely got through some tight running at the intersection. Now it's a 4-car battle for the lead as we work into the second minute of the 180 minutes of this race. Already on the track are alternates Eddie Deal and number 27 and the number 9 of Leonard Basham, former world champion, who's at the intersection just as the leaders come through and just barely getting around that traffic and retaking the lead. In the number 4 is Rich Fenwick as we see the number 09 car. One of our starters is in smoking for the start of the race. Collision between the number 9 car of Basham and the number 12 of Kevin Ford. Those cars get together coming through the intersection. They somehow keep on going, and the first blood has been drawn in the World Championship of 1994. The number 4 of Rich Fenwick holds on to the advantage. The number 1 of Jack Dawsey Jr., the number 3 of Mike St. John, 3 abreast into the third turn of lap number 6 as we work into the third minute of this World Championship challenge. At the intersection, the number 76 of Martin to the number 24 of Jerry Brown just barely got through. Working now to lap number 8. The lead is held by the number 1 of Dawsey. There's the number 4 Fenwick battling for position to the outside of turns number 3 and 4 of lap number 8. They come to the intersection. 2 cars are right there in front of them. That's going to be the same sort of confrontation we're going to see all night long. The world champion, number 1, Jack Dawsey Jr. against the national champion, the number 4, Rich Fenwick, 3 abreast with the former world and track champion, the number 3 of Mike St. John, and former world champion in number 10, The Dwayne Lee car, they fan out 3 and 4 abreast in intense battling. It's a 7-car fight for the lead. Running echelon right, 2 by 2, coming around the Apperson car. Barely missing the number 71 car of Charles Cole. Fenwick leads to the number 4. Second place to the number 3 of Mike St. John, but he loses that position quickly to the number 1 of Jack Dawsey Jr. They battle side by side for second place. Then you've got the number 10 of Dwayne Lee, who runs in 4th. Fifth place is the number 4 of George Sutton, just ahead of his son-in-law, the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore. The cars almost jam each other, 3 abreast going into turn number 3. The constant battle for the lead. Midway through the 4th minute of the first hour of this race, 7 or 8 cars in a hot battle for the lead, with Fenwick up in front in the number 4F, just ahead of the number 3 of Mike St. John. The third place, the number 1 of Jack Dawsey Jr. Then you've got the number 10 of Dwayne Lee, the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore, splitting around the already lapped number 64 of Steve Ryder. It's already overlapped the number 4 of George Sutton, new leader. Turn number 1, the number 3 of Mike St. John had the lead for an instant, had to back off because right in his sights with the number 16 of Robbie Lubbock. But St. John charges to the outside of 3 abreast racing in turn number 3 and 4 of lap number 13, finishing 4 minutes. Mike St. John is the next leader of this race. 3 leaders of the race already in 4 minutes of competition. And look at the intense 3 abreast traffic battling their way through cars 2 and 3 abreast, strung all over the Indianapolis Speedrome. The number 3 of Mike St. John tries to jam his way underneath the number 71F of Steve Croft. Second place is the number 4F of Fenwick. Third place in the classic early race fight is the number 1 of Jack Dawsey Jr. Fourth place is the number 10 of Dwayne Lee. Up to fifth place is the number 44, Bill Tunney Jr. In sixth place, you've got the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore. Seventh place is now the number 4 of George Sutton, joined there by the number 7 of Robert Amos, the number 33 of Doug Gregg, and the number 11B of Gary Bedell. It's 10 or 12 cars in a hot fight that will go all night long in the Indianapolis Speedrome, closing down 5 minutes of this race. 3 Mike St. John, 2 lengths on the number 4 of Fenwick. In the third place is the number 1 of Dawsey. They pulled a couple of car lengths ahead of the 4th place, number 44 of Tunney. 4 abreast going into the first turn. How did they pull it off? I don't know. As the 44 of Tunney and the 5 of Rodney Sizemore split around those cars, running 4 wide. And Brown almost took out the number 11 of Bedell near the tail end of the lead lap. Also, we'll note these drivers appear to be running on the lead lap. The number 71 of Charles Cole, maybe the number 24 Brown, 87 Turner, and I think the number 1K of State may be the last driver on the lead lap. We're working the 6th minute of 180 minutes of this World Championship of Figure 8 racing. How long will this pace continue? How long can they keep it up, battling each other in intense traffic? We've already gone through a galaxy of alternates in this race. Looks as if we're down to the number 779 of Ray Gaddis, the animal out of Michigan, is one of those drivers around whom the leaders are fighting right now. The number 3, Mike St. John, holds on to the lead that he snatched a few minutes away from the number 4F of Rich Fenwick. Third place, the number 1 of Dawsey. Fourth place, number 44 of Bill Tunney Jr. Now in fifth place, you've got the number 10 car of Dwayne Lee, just ahead of the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore. Then you've got 7 Amos, the number 4 of Sutton, and then you've got the number 33 of Gregg and the number 1B of Gary Bedell. That's your lead pack. That is your fight for victory in this World Championship. This is a 3-hour race, and these drivers are acting as if it is a 25-lap sprint race. Now Mike St. John squirts to the outside, anticipating traffic on his left, and will try to move through that traffic as they go past the number 16R of Roger Vincent. He was the 7th alternate in this race, and he's already on the track. Mike St. John continues to lead as the number 44, Bill Tunney Jr. had to stop short because the number 1 of Jack Dawsey Jr. almost stopped short in front of him. And the number 87 of Danny Turner, one of the starters in this race, is in danger of going 1 lap down as we close down 7 minutes of this 180-minute show. 3 Mike St. John now moves around the lap. Number 48 of Rodney Smith measures the number 87 of Danny Turner, the man they call the dangerous one. Working as the field looks into the first turn of lap number 24, midway through the 8th minute of the first hour of this race. And the pack stays tight as the number 24 of Jerry Brown finds a tiny gap at the intersection. Mike St. John now pulls out a length of maybe 2 lengths over the number 4 of Rich Fenwick. At the intersection, St. John has to watch out for a lot of cars, including Scott Martin and Jack Dandy. Mike St. John somehow holds onto the lead. Rich Fenwick may be satisfied to hold back. Jack Dandy through the intersection. Splits between Dawsey and Tunney as they battle hard for position number 3. And now there's Dawsey, the third place car, pulling up to engage. The number 1 of Rich Fenwick for second place. Makes the pass for second place as they go into the first turn of lap number 26 and close out minute number 8 of our number 1. At the intersection, Charles Cole slides through there. St. John hits the brakes to keep from hitting Coles, and that puts Dawsey in the number 1 back into the lead. Working the 9th minute of the race now, Dawsey pulls away. There's Brown, rather the number 2 car wasn't getting through, just ahead of these guys. And again, Jack Dandy in the 56 has a narrow escape. Dawsey in 1 is now starting to pull away and establish the first substantial lead of this World Championship race midway through the 9th minute of the first hour. Dawsey has a lead of about 10 lengths over the number 3 of Mike St. John. In second place, you've got the number 3 of St. John, as we mentioned. In third place, the number 44 of Tunney. Fourth place, the number 4 of Rich Fenwick. Fifth place is the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore. Sixth place is the number 10 of Dwayne Lee. Seventh place is the number 4 of George Sutton. In eighth place, you've got the number 7 of Robert Amos. I'll give ninth place to the number 33 of Doug Gregg, and in 10th place, I'll say you've got the, watch out, Gary Bedell almost hit the second place, number 44 of Bill Tunney Jr., and how he survived that, I will never know, as we've already got troubles with the number 71F of Steve Frost, who's running off the pace as the cars charge through the intersection. We'll watch as the cars come through the crossover, and Jack Dawsey Jr. almost got nailed by 3 or 4 other cars as they got through the intersection that time, just barely. Now we notice that over these last couple of laps, the number 3 of Mike St. John has gotten back up to position number 2. To third place is the number 44, Bill Tunney Jr. Battling in fourth place is the 5 of Rodney Sizemore, as the national champion Rich Fenwick has dropped back to 5th place. But Fenwick had said he would take it easy. He led some of the early laps. Now he's decided to sit back and watch out. Where the number 7 of Robert Amos got hit in the intersection by the number 44, Bill Tunney Jr. Tunney was looking for a gap that did not exist, and he rammed the number 7 of Amos and also took out Witten's number 2 in the first wreck of the race. This one happening near the end of minute number 10 of the first hour of this race. And Robert Amos is waving to the starters, lobbying for a yellow, and we will come down to a yellow. The first caution period of the night at the Indianapolis Speedrome in the World Championship of Figure 8 Racing comes at 10 minutes into this race. And for the first time, we have a moment to kind of slow down and ease off and bring in our guys that are going to be our expert analysts for this race. First off, we've got Jim Fox, the first ever World Figure 8 champion, who was down there for the introductions. Jim, what do you think about the way those guys were starting? It looked like they were ready for everything. I know you guys say you take it easy at the beginning of the Figure 8 race. You couldn't have convinced me by what I saw.
Well, like I said when you interviewed me over the phone, this race has got to the point now where it is a race from the beginning to the end. Not only is it endurance, but you have to go for the green at the very first lap. You can't wait. These cars are much faster each year, and you got to go right from the start, from the green to the checkered, racing all the way.
And we also have another driver expert that's up here. Fred Baird Jr. insisted on watching it up here in the tower. Fred Baird Jr., the guy that hoped to win this race, but after an elbow injury, he suffered at a non-sanctioned Figure 8 event down in Louisville, has to sit here and watch, and even his race car, Blue Motor, was not able to run here tonight with Bruce Tunney behind the wheel. Fred, what do you think of that opening 10 minutes of intense contest?
I tell you what, these guys are running like there's no tomorrow. It's like a 25-lap shootout. They need to be patient. They're just driving really, really fast right now. They need to be patient.
And one of the guys who some people say is patient, some people say is not patient, was involved in the first crash of the night. You saw what happened there. Bill Tunney Jr. got caught up in the situation. I'm not sure if that was his fault or not. You had Robert Amos, who was trying to get through the intersection, got caught in a bad circumstance, trying to tiptoe through the intersection at slow speed, and Tunney was bearing down him. I don't know if Tunney had any place to go.
No, that's an unfortunate situation there. Bill Tunney had no place to go, but hey, that's part of it. He's back, I'm sure, getting it fixed. He'll be back out.
Now, Tunney was able to drive off the racetrack and take his car to the pit area for repairs. Amos, one of the starters of this race, is going off on the hook. It almost got knocked off of his race car as it was hauled off the track. In the meantime, our in-pit analyst, Larry Harris, is there getting set for the restart of this contest. Larry, is it crazy out there as it looks?
Yeah, I'm in the Bill Tunney Jr. pit right now. They're working on the car. Bill, can you fix the car? They don't want to talk right now, Kevin, but they're working on the car feverishly, and I think they'll be back out in just a minute.
And so Bill Tunning Jr. and his team were down in the pit area getting set for the repair of that car and the start of this race. The restart, this yellow period so far has lasted a couple of minutes. Also being towed off the track was Tim Taylor, the young driver who shocked everybody by qualifying third. Something happened to that car and it would not run. It stalled during the pace lap and then stalled during the start of the race, and so the number 28 of Tim Taylor is out of it. That is at least until somebody can get things fixed. As we get set for the restart, working the 14th minute of the first hour of this race and the 37th lap now underway. The leader will be the number 1 of Jack Dawsey Jr., the defending world champion. Second place, 3 Mike St. John. Up to third place, the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore. Fourth place is the number 4 of Rich Fenwick. Fifth place I'll give to the number 10 of Dwayne Lee. Then in 6th place, the number 4 of George Sutton. 7th place I'll give to the number 33 of Doug Gregg. I'll say 8th place is the number 11B of Gary Bedell. I'll say Bedell's the last driver on the lead lap as we storm to the restart at the beginning of this contest, closing down to the end of lap number 14. And our driver analysts are amazed at how hard these drivers are going as Jerry Whitten almost pays the ultimate price as he cuts through the intersection and runs into some trouble. We see coming back onto the racetrack the number 29 of Rob Catron after making a pit stop. And the battle for the lead renews with the number 1 of Dawsey, the number 3 of Mike St. John, and the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore cutting through the intersection just ahead of the number 76 of Scott Martin. You've got a battle for position number 4 as well with the number 4F of Rich Fenwick just ahead of the number 10 of Dwayne Lee. As for the first time of this race, the lead pack is starting to scatter around the racetrack, but still up in front there's a 2-car battle for second place. Bedell's in trouble. The number 11B car had something go wrong and he pulled off the racetrack just as the watch out as the number 4 of Rich Fenwick had to slide the car sideways to keep from smashing into the number 76 of Scott Martin. Again, here's the circumstance. Bedell had the number 11 car run into problems and he pulled into the infield. He's trying to get the car off the track. 3 abreast for the lead. Inside move Mike St. John, turn number 3. Lap number 41 of the number 3. Challenges the number 1 of Dawsey. Wheel to wheel for the lead. Through a crowded crossover, all 3 drivers have to keep from hitting Whitten and Brown. Now get back on the throttle and Dawsey comes back into the lead in the number 1. Second place is the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore, and third place is Mike St. John in the number 3. That's also the battle for the Speedrome Track Championship that'll take place this next weekend. But right now it's the battle for the World Championship. Rodney Sizemore down to the inside of the 5, clip the first turn marker tire as they start lap number 43. And Danny Turner has to hesitate to keep from running into the number 77 of Jeff Rich, and Dwayne Lee in 4th place all by himself as a crowded crossover. He has to jam through. Dawsey jinks left, turns right, looks for a place through the intersection, just barely finds it. Lee Paget slowed down, got clipped by the number 87 of Danny Turner. Paget almost got hit by Jack Danny. Oh, how did the number 08 of Apperson get through that tiny gap? I don't know how that worked, and we're going to maybe come down to yellow here for a moment. We're going down to yellow as Paget finally gets restarted because the number 5 of Paget slowed down at the intersection and stalled right after the 87 of Danny Turner got into a mess. We had to bring out the yellow for the second time here at the start of the 16th minute, the 17th minute, I should say, of the 180 in this World Championship chase. Well, Jim Fox, it happened again. Somebody slowed up at the intersection. Another person rammed into him. And I don't know how Danny Apperson of the 08 got through a gap that I did not think was 1 car wide there at the crossover.
He had to have a shoehorn to get through there, I'll tell you, Kevin, because it was tight. The leaders on this race are absolutely going flat out. They're going to go all the way flat out. And I don't know whether the cars can last that long.
We'll find out here shortly. Fred Bear, you're watching how hard these guys are driving as well. They're driving almost as hard as you did last year.
I don't think I drove this hard last year. I was kind of impatient, but let me tell you, they're driving like there's no tomorrow, like it's 5 minutes to go into this 3-hour race.
And we're going to get things straightened up. We had a couple of drivers that got caught at the intersection. The 21 of Downton, the 48 of Rodney Smith, and the number 2 of Jerry Whitten. They're rolling again. Looks as I'm not trying to find out if David Staten is kind of stalled over here in the 1K car, as we're bringing out more and more machines onto the racetrack. One of the characteristics of this World Championship of Figure 8 racing is that the number of cars on the track increases as we go through the race because we have a circumstance where a lot of drivers come on as alternates. David Staten, one of the starters in this race, the 26th starter in the 1K, is now being pushed off the track. That car can be put back into the race, but first it must prove to the USAC technical inspectors back in the pit area that it is capable of restarting. We look onto the racetrack and we see many of the alternates are getting a chance to run. There, the latest driver on the racetrack who was an alternate is Tom Collins at the number 69. Bill Tunney Jr. comes back onto the racetrack. He has lost the better part of about 10 minutes of racing, about 20 laps. Jim Fox, can you come back from 20 laps down in this World Championship anymore?
In this event, I don't know. They're racing so fast. The laps are counting. 10 minutes in the pits can make a big difference.
And we come to the restart as we begin minute number 19 of the 180 in this World Championship race. The number 1 of Dawsey holds on to the advantage as he cuts to the intersection. Whitten gets through just behind those drivers. 3 drivers again battling for the lead. The number 1 of Jack Dawsey Jr., the number 3 of Mike St. John, and the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore. In 4th place is the number 10 of Dwayne Lee. 5th place, I'll say, is the number 4 of Rich Fenwick. That's the yellow number 4. Then 6th place is the red and yellow number 4 of George Sutton. And then the other drivers that I will show as being on the lead lap will be the number 33 of Doug Gregg, who I think is the last driver on the lead lap. The leaders come 3 abreast through the crossover and somehow make it once again, as St. John has the lead away from Dawsey. Dawsey is battling for 2nd place with the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore. They almost ran into the number 64 of Steve Ryder at the intersection that time through, and that gives the number 1 of Dawsey back the lead. Here's Dawsey out of the 4th turn, charging to 1st place, just ahead of the dead heat for 2nd place between the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore and the number 3 of Mike St. John. At the intersection of Walla Bendel, all the cars stop. Now they get back on the throttle again, and St. John almost hit Jerry Brown at the intersection. And St. John is lucky to hold on to 2nd place. This classic 3-car battle gets in between Doug Gregg and Ernie Herrera, and Dwayne Lee got between Jerry Brown and the car of Bobby Dalton. All these narrow avoidances, how many times can they keep on doing it again and again and again here at the Indianapolis Speedrome? We're barely 20 minutes into this race. We've got to do this 5 more times. Leaders slow down, pick up the pace, almost run into the number 71 of Charles Coles. Number 1 of Dawsey has the advantage. 3, St. John is in 2nd. Now this heavy battle has allowed the number 10 of Dwayne Lee to make it a 4-car fight for the lead. Several cars have slowed down at the intersection, looking for some place to go. The leaders are trying to move around it. They'll go wide to one side, and Rodney Sizemore almost smashed into the cars of Dalton and the 33 of Doug Gregg. And Rodney Sizemore lost a lot of ground as a result. He fell back to 4th place. And Rodney Sizemore almost ran into the Scott Martin car. Working to the 21st minute of this race in 54 laps. The number 1 of Jack Dawsey Jr., the number 10 of Dwayne Lee, the number 3 of Mike St. John, and the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore. The crossover's totally jammed, and the leaders all in single file go around those cars that are stopped off to one side, and George Sutton almost got smashed into oblivion by Jerry Brown. Now here comes Jack Dawsey Jr. almost hitting the number 16 of Robbie Loving as they come through the intersection. Time and time again, this is the most intense start I've ever seen in a World Championship race, as Dawsey at number 1, the number 10 of Dwayne Lee, the number 3 of Mike St. John, and the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore take their lives into their hands every time they go through the intersection. Now the crossover is relatively quiet, but now things are going to start to get intense right in front of the leaders. There are a dozen slower cars right in front of them. The smartest guys of the racetrack at this early sequence might be the 2 number 4 cars, the number 4 of George Sutton and the 4F of Rich Fenwick. They're letting these leaders go on through and fight through this 2 and 3 abreast racing in turns number 1 and 2 of lap number 58, midway through the 22nd minute of the first hour of this World Championship race. Dawsey still leads in car number 1. 2nd place is the number 10 of Dwayne Lee. 3rd place is the number 3 of Mike St. John, and 4th place is the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore. 5th place is the number 4 of Sutton. 6th place is the 4F of Rich Fenwick, and I'll give 7th place unofficially to the number 33 of Doug Gregg. I will unofficially call Gregg the last driver running on the lead lap. Dawsey for a moment has a big advantage as he cuts right to left, left to right to get through the intersection, almost gets into the 6th place, number 4F of Rich Fenwick. Intensely heavy traffic right ahead of Dawsey, who has to watch out for Fenwick and the number 16 R Machine of Roger Vincent in his first ever World Championship experience. Dawsey for the moment has the lead. Now to 2nd place is Dwayne Lee in the number 10. They are running just as they started now, 1st and 2nd, but what an adventure it has been for those drivers. Third place is the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore. Fourth place is the number 3 of Mike St. John. Closing on these drivers is the fifth place, number 4 of George Sutton. It's 4 abreast going into the first turn of lap number 62 for the leader, Jack Dawsey Jr. There's heavy traffic all over the places. Pageant slows down a bunch of cars, and the number 71 of Steve Frost almost got into a big mess through the intersection, and how they survived, I will never know. Closing down the 23rd minute of this race, Dawsey still leads in the 1. Second place is the number 10 of Dwayne Lee, who bounces right over the marker tire. You could easily tear up a race car that way. Watch out as the bumping battle between the Vincent number 16 and the number 48 of Rodney Smith. Somebody's got a radiator going up in smoke. It's the number 77 of Jeff Rich, who's pulling off the racetrack and out of the contest. And now Dawsey fights his way, busts his way through traffic. There was a crash starting there, and Dawsey drove right into the middle of it, and the crash broke up. Now Dawsey in the number 1 is trying to put the national figure 8 champion, Rich Fenwick, 1 lap down. We've just seen George Sutton, the driver had been running in 5th place, go into the pit area, and Dawsey in the 1 has now put the number 4F of Rich Fenwick 1 lap down. The national figure 8 champion overlapped by the current world figure 8 champion, Jack Dawsey Jr. Working to the 65th lap and working to close the 24th minute of the first hour of this race. Dawsey is now a lead of about 15 car lengths over the number 10 of Dwayne Lee, who runs in 2nd place. 3rd place in intensely heavy traffic is the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore, as we see the number 65 of Bobby Whitaker spin. Whitaker just came onto the racetrack as one of the alternates and now gets restarted again. Watching as the field charges out of turns number 1 and 2. The leader is somewhere in the middle of that as Dawsey almost got into Apperson and Dandy. Dawsey comes to the intersection, collision out of turn number 2 as the 56 of Dandy comes through the intersection. What are you doing, Jack? And he almost crashes out the entire field. In that group of cars that was avoiding Dandy was the number 28 of Tim Taylor, the 3rd place starter that has missed just about all of the race so far. Here's Dawsey looking for a gap at the intersection and just barely finding it. 2nd place is the number 10 of Dwayne Lee. 3rd place is the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore. Dropping to 4th place is the number 3 of Mike St. John. And way back in 5th place, almost a lap down, is the number 33 of Doug Gregg. I'll say 6th place, 1 lap down, is the 4F of Rich Fenwick. Sutton is back on the racetrack at the number 4. A short pit stop. It will cost him maybe 4 or 5 laps, but still he is running again. And Dawsey has now started to stretch out the first major lead of the race. It's a 1/4 lap advantage for Dawsey in the number 1 over the number 10 of Dwayne Lee. But the faster Dawsey goes, watch out of the intersection. Dandy got between Loving and Douthit once again. We're calling Dandy's number a lot tonight because he's one of those fearless, some people call him brainless, figure 8 guys. We also noticed that the Bill Tunney Jr. cars dropped out of the races. The brown car almost got into Lee and Rodney Sizemore at the intersection, and the 17 of Donnie Garagos almost speared the Vincent number 16. 2 packs of cars coming at each other at equal speed all night at the World Championship of Figure 8 Racing. And Dawsey and the number 4 of Rich Fenwick almost run into each other. Fenwick is some distance back as the number 75 of Ellen Overding almost takes out the cars that are running in 2nd and 3rd place, the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore and the number 10 of Dwayne Lee. Those drivers are running in tandem with the number 9L of Leonard Basham, a former world champion of Figure 8 Racing. A car is in the wall in the 3rd turn. The number 24 of Jerry Brown has hit the wall in the 3rd turn. You can see the smudge marks on the wall where that car got into the concrete. That is the sort of thing that may bring out a caution any moment now. They were still running under a temporary green as George Sutton tries to pull off the racetrack for the 2nd time. And now Jerry Brown gets off the wall, rolls again, and we will stay under a full green flag condition. And now things are, watch out of the crossover, a bump between the number 64 of Steve Ryder and the number 10 car of Wayne Newkirk. Newkirk is stopped in the intersection. Now gets going again and will stay under full green here midway through the 27th, 28th minute of this race. Now, Leonard Basham slows down. Dawsey goes around Basham to avoid him, and Basham almost takes out Overding, who almost takes out Dalton, who almost takes out Herrera. It's that sort of intense chain reaction action that brings people to the World Championship time and time again. And through all of this incredible racing, the number 1 of Dawsey, as Tim Taylor gets hit by Overding, it comes across and spears the Dalton car, just as the number 69 car comes up and hits the number 31 machine. Now trouble as the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore cut inside a marker tire. That could be big problems, even if the racetrack was blocked. We'll have to check on the circumstance with Sizemore on the scoring as we go through this race. So here's the circumstance. We had 3 incidents. We had the number 24 of Jerry Brown get into the wall. Then we had Alan Overding spin at the intersection and hit the number 21 of Bobby Dalton, just as the number 69 of Collins got into the number 31. Of Larry McIntyre. And in the middle of that, when it looked as if the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore stuck on the inside with no place to go, cut inside of the first turn marker tire, that could be a problem. But we'll wait for our scorers to evaluate that circumstance and decide what the call is there. Jim Fox, we were wondering how long could these guys go here at the Indianapolis Speedrome without starting to run into each other. I think we got our answer, about 25 minutes.
In about 25 minutes of the race, attrition started to take its place. Right under the flag stand, there was about 6 cars in 2 different instances that got together. A lot of bent A-frames. I think every car that was involved there is either going to be right back on the track or will be back shortly. But it's starting to take place. The attrition is starting to wear into the machines.
And the person who's watching a lot of that wear back in the pit area is Larry Harris. Larry, let's find out what's happening from your standpoint back there in the pit area.
Well, I'm in the 28 pit with Timmy Taylor. He told me earlier the steering broke at the start. What happened this time, Timmy?
I don't know. I got clipped in the right rear and hit Robbie Dowdery inside.
Are you going to make it back out?
Yeah, I think so. I think we just finished spinning.
Youngest driver in the race, Kevin. He's heading back out in the 28, Timmy Taylor.
We've got 79 laps on the board as we come to the restart, and the leaders again have to be careful. Look at the cars all over the intersection, and Jack Dandy almost got destroyed by the number 74 of Dale Canals. 2 drivers are battling for the lead. First and second qualifiers. Watch out, Alan Overding almost took out both of those cars in one fell swoop. Newkirk stopped at the intersection of the number 10. The leaders have a wall of metal ahead of them, and they just barely get through there. Again, by my call, the number 1 of Jack Dawsey Jr. has the lead. The number 10 of Dwayne Lee is in second. In third place, maybe the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore, but it was obvious that car cut inside a marker tire down in the area of the first turn. We'll wait for the scores to give us an indication on that one. So if that's the circumstance, then you would have Mike St. John in third place in the number 3 if there's going to be a marker tire violation called on the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore. Oh, a big jam up in the first and second corner. Nobody hit each other. It's just cars that got so close together they had no place to go. As we see the number 99 of Scott Box on the racetrack. Box is currently the 21st alternate. That means we've had almost 50 cars in the race so far, and we're only 1/6 of the way through the contest, through all of this. The number 1 of Jack Dawsey Jr. has been pretty much the dominant force as they cut through the intersection just ahead of the national figure 8 champion. Rich Fenwick and George Sutton almost hit Alan Overding. Now trouble as we come out of the second corner is the number 16 car of Robbie Loving swerved off to one side, and again, heavy traffic through the intersection. Where's Robbie Loving going? He's trying to cut through the intersection. So is George Sutton and the rest of the guys. Loving is going to make a pit stop at the number 16. Mike St. John at the intersection watches as Alan Overding in the 75 car spins the number 72 of Mike Nelson. They come to the intersection just as the number 11 of Gary Bedell gets back onto the track, and the number 3 of St. John cuts between the 65 of Whitaker and the 71F of Steve Frost. It is just that intense. It is just that insane. And the leaders are in the teeth of that traffic. Dwayne Lee almost got splattered off to one side by the number 75 of Overding. cuts to the inside of opening Lee in second place of the 10 car. Goes off in pursuit now. Scott Box in a 3-car crash along with the Jay Rayner, number 16, in a 3rd car that we can't pick out from this angle and distance. The Box number 16, that may be Witten's number 2 car, and Witten is trying to drive over Scott Box as the cars are jammed together coming out of the 2nd turn, with the drivers coming at them at full speed. The starters are looking over that circumstance. Now Witten pulls away in the 2, but Box at the number 99 may be jammed there and stuck, and that will bring out yet another caution, and the pace car will move quickly onto the racetrack to pick up the leader. And at the crossover under yellow, there's almost a multiple car crash, and I think the number 4 of Rich Fenwick got clipped by the number 76 of Scott Martin, and that was while they were slowing down for the caution. Well, that was a fairly typical and ordinary figure 8 crash there, but Jim Fox, I still can't believe how these guys are under caution. There's Jack Dandy and the 87 of Danny Turner actually running into each other, trying to catch back up to the pace car and position for the restart. They're driving harder under caution than you guys used to drive during the race.
Oh, come on, Gavin, give us a little credit. We used to go crazy. This is such an intense race, I can't even believe the way they're driving for having so much time left. You're right, on the caution, they still don't want to go to a lap down, so they're trying to get up close to the pace car so they don't go a lap down when the green flag drops again.
Now here's the circumstance that's developing with the number 5R, Rodney Sizemore. If our call is correct, and it's a possibility that Sizemore missed the marker tire, looked like he did to him, that would put him 1 lap down, and he'd be battling to get his lap back at the number 5 for the number 1 of Dawsey as they come out of turn number 1 and 2. Oh, look at this crossover, 6 abreast, and the leaders have to fall into line single file. And there's Rodney Sizemore moving back around the number 1 of Jack Dawsey Jr. And will trust, watch out, the crossover, the leaders almost got taken out as Doug Briggs spun the number 87 of Danny Turner. They both had to slow down because the 56 of Danny and the number 10 of Newkirk slowed down and almost stopped at the crossover. And now the number 33 of Doug Briggs has to slow down to keep from ramming Roger Vincent in the number 16R. Through all of this again, we'll go with the call to the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore. Missed the... What?
Who's got a tire?
Again, our scorers confirmed to us what we had the conjecture of, that the number 5 of Rodney Size. Watch out! Collision to the crossover between Steve Frost and Ray Gaddis. Launches Frost number 71 up into the air, and they keep on going again. We now have our confirmation as the number 68 of Walker DeWitt has run into the wall over in turn number 3. Confirmation from our scorers that the Rodney Sizemore number 5 did miss the marker tire and will get the 1-lap penalty. And so Rodney Sizemore in the 5R has just put himself back on the lead lap. 2 cars collided in turn number 2. 64 Steve Ryder and the number 74 of Dale Canals. Those drivers, watch out of the crossover. The number 11 B car of Gary Bedell ran all over the number 48 of Rodney Smith and almost flipped the red and white number 11B. Gary Bedell qualified well. He has had all sorts of trouble in the race. Watching as we see the number 74 of Canals backing out of the way. There's the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore. Again, that's the last car on the lead lap. Leader is the number 1 of Jack Dawsey Jr. Second place is the number 10 of Dwayne Lee. Third place is the number 3 of Mike St. John. Then we circle back around, and your 4th place car by my call, unofficial call, would be the number 5R of Rodney Sizemore. And the circumstance is that Rodney Sizemore got back on the lead lap when he passed the number 1 of Dawsey there on the restart. So Sizemore's got an entire lap to make up, almost an entire lap, and Dawsey would like to be able to get him back as well. As Dawsey has to watch out for the number 10 of Dwayne Lee. Lee sneaking up to the outside of Dawsey coming out of the 2nd turn. Racing him hard for the lead in intensely heavy traffic in turn number 3. Dwayne Lee cuts deep down to the inside, a legal move. Dawsey takes the outside line. The leaders almost collide. Dawsey has the faster run onto the 4th turn and comes back to the lead as Fenwick and the 33 of Doug Briggs side slap each other coming through the intersection and somehow keep on going. Through all of this, the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore does stay on the tail end of the lead lap. Coming to finish the 37th minute of this first hour of this race. And this is lap number 100. The leaders are working right now. Jack Dawsey Jr. trying to finish 100 laps in 38 minutes. We see George Sutton spinning the number 4. He'll get started again. Does not want to get into the middle of that heavy traffic as the number 25 of Kurt Bilbrey broke the front suspension and collision with somebody. He's trying to get off the racetrack. Now he decides to run a couple of laps of the broken suspension anyway. 100 laps completed with the number 1 of Jack Dawsey Jr. in the lead, the number 10 of Dwayne Lee in second, the 3 of Mike St. John in third. All of those drivers extremely close to each other at the front of the field. Now finishing minute number 38 this next time by. We see Walker DeWitt sashaying through the intersection, noting that DeWitt is the 20s. Watch out! The number 66 of Curtis Murphy ran all over the left side wheel, right side wheels, the number 4 of George Sutton. Murphy immediately makes a pit stop. Sutton stays out there and keeps on going. And Mike St. John got collected by the number 71 of Charles Coles, almost flipping both cars. St. John gets restarted in a hurry. He wants to stay on the lead lap. And as far as I know, he is still running in third place. Well, as we see Charles Coles boarding around with a flat tire. Watch out, Charles Coles out of the way, almost got hit by the number 10 of Dwayne Lee as Lee in heavy traffic came around Dawsey to retake the lead. Now Dwayne Lee looks at the intersection. He almost got splattered by Jack Dandy, and Dawsey takes advantage of the traffic to get back into the lead. Dawsey comes to the intersection, watching out for Frost and St. John, and they keep on doing it time and time again. Through all of this, the driver that's really making the advantage is the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore. Coming from 1 lap down, he's gotten himself a quarter lap ahead of Dawsey in 1 and Lee in 10, meaning that Sizemore is now 3/4 of a lap down. And as we see the number 95 of Kim Gibson, the 26th alternate, move on to the racetrack, crash in turn number 3. The number 71 of Frost and the 33 of Gray got together, and that collected the number 10 of Newkirk and almost put the number 5 of Sizemore another lap down. Doug Brake's car damaged, waving, lobbying for a yellow, hoping that the caution comes out. That's exactly what Rodney Sizemore wants, and here's the caution that Rodney Sizemore was hoping for. This lets Rodney Sizemore go all the way back around and rejoin the field on the tail end of the lead lap. However, that came at the expense of a lot of frustration for the number 33 of Doug Gray. Well, Fred Bear, you tell me, you've been watching this. You tell me why we haven't had 5 cars upside down. Oh, the crossover, a crash that sees the right rear lever torn off of the number 52 of Ken Lewis during the caution. Dwayne Lee smashing Ken Lewis's car during the caution flag, and the second place driver is almost taken out of the race. Again, I was about ready to call on our good friend Fred Bear Jr. Fred, you tell me why we haven't had 5 cars upside down in the last 5 minutes.
I don't know. I don't know how they're doing it, but I tell you what, Dwayne Lee just got lucky there. That Ken Lewis, I don't know what he was thinking under the yellow, but you got to calm down when the yellow comes out or this stuff's going to happen.
Ken Lewis in the 52 car got hit squarely in the left rear corner. That tore the number 52's left rear off. Well, Jim Fox, you build these race cars. You tell me why Dwayne Lee's car is right now looking as if it's in one piece, and Ken Lewis's car looks like it's just been through a car crusher.
Dwayne Lee hit him dead center. The full force, all straight, all the tension and all the action was right dead against the front of Dwayne Lee's car, where they're the strongest because of the crossover. He caught the number 52 car right in the end of the axle tube, which is probably one of the weakest points. Dwayne Lee is mighty lucky. A couple inches either way would have taken out an A-frame or a suspension part of Dwayne's car, and he'd been in the pits trying to put that car back together. But if you could draw a target, Dwayne Lee hit it right on the bullseye and came out the winner.
So Dwayne Lee stays in the race in second place, and Larry Harris is watching the emerging maelstrom of the pit area, where there are a lot of cars that have come onto the racetrack to run, but I'm sure that Larry Harris is seeing a whole bunch of wrecker and welder action right now.
Kevin, I'm down here with Sonny Taylor. He kind of oversees the cars of Timmy Taylor and Danny Turner. What happened to Timmy, Sonny?
He blew a clutch out. It's just unfortunate. This is only his second race, and I thought he was doing a fine job.
He done for the night?
Yes, he's done for the
What
night.
about Danny?
He's having a towing problem. He
window bent, and we're chasing the tow in on it right now. All right, good luck. Thank you.
I guess we need Deputy Sheriff Russ Taylor to your car. Deputy Sheriff Russ Taylor to your car. We come to the restart. Now we'll find out if Dwayne Lee's car has been damaged by that collision. The number 1 of Jack Dawsey Jr. as we come to the restart and begin minute number 43. We're midway through the 43rd minute of the first hour of this race, and now working 112 laps. Dawsey is able to pull away from Dwayne Lee. At first, it looks as if there's been no damage to Dwayne Lee's car, other than possibly giving it the shock of its young racing life. In third place is Rodney Sizemore. In that traffic, Rodney Sizemore in the 5R just came around the number 3 of Mike St. John. That puts St. John back to 4th place as they had to watch out for Kim Gibson's car. But now St. John storms back away around the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore. Those drivers, watch out at the intersection again. You know you're tired of hearing us say that, but every time we look at the intersection, there are several cars there as Dwayne Lee almost got clipped by the number 71 of Charles Cole. And there's Leonard Basham getting the 9L sideways. Through all of this, Dawsey leads to the number 1. The number 10 of Dwayne Lee runs in 2nd place. To 3rd place is the number 5R. No, the number 3 of Mike St. John is back in 3rd place. In 4th place is the 5R of Rodney Sizemore. The number 64 of Steve Reiner spins again. The number 95 of Kim Gibson almost spins. The number 69 of Tom Collins. And the number 27 of Eddie Deal spun here coming into the 3rd turn. All of those drivers facing the wrong way. Here come the leaders. Head on. Where are they going to go? Gary Bedell almost smashing those cars head on as they're facing the wrong way. The 27 of Deal and the 64 of Reiner trying to get restarted, trying to move, and now will bring them down to yellow. And we'll finally have a chance to sit back here and rest. I think the problem with the Reiner number 64 is that the machine got high-centered on the 3rd turn marker tire, Jim Fox, and Reiner has had more than enough adventures here. How many times has he spun? 3, 4, 5 times already, and we're not even an hour into this race.
He has spun several times. He's been caught up in crossover traffic. I believe you're right. He's high-centered, and I do see liquid underneath. Whether that's fuel, water, a radiator, or what, it's wet under his particular car. We're back under green, Kevin.
And again, they break through traffic with the 1 of Dawsey, the 10 of Dwayne Lee, fighting hard for position. Now to 3rd place, you've got the number 4. Now 4F of Rich Fenwick is running in 3rd position right behind the cars, but that is not 3rd place of the race. 3rd place of the race is the white number 3 of Mike St. John. 4th place, so watch out! Somebody bumped over a marker tire. Basham's number 9 hit a marker tire, and I thought that car was going on its roof there for a moment. But again, we're almost used to that. Again, we're watching 4 drivers, by my reckoning, who run on the lead lap. Leader 1, Dawsey. 2nd place, 10, Dwayne Lee. In 3rd place, the number 3 of Mike St. John. 4th place, the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore, as Dwayne Lee cuts between the cars of Jack Dandy and Walker DeWitt. Going through the 2nd turn of lap number 121. Watching as the number 1 of Jack Dawsey Jr. charges through. There are 2 similar cars on the racetrack. Dawsey's car is number 1. Bedell's similar car is number 11 as 2 or 3 cars get together coming northbound. Curtis Murphy, the Bobby Whitaker, and Scott Martin cars all nail each other. Where is car of Dawsey going? I thought he was going to drive through Rodney Sizemore's car at the intersection. There was no room there when he made the maneuver. Now he's going to try it again, and Mike St. John collided with the number 72 of Mike Nelson, and Dwayne Lee is forced nearly to the main stretch oval wall to avoid that crash. Mike St. John lucky that he's got a car that still has apparently 4 completely inflated tires as he got into a wheel-to-wheel banging mess with the number 72 of Mike Nelson. And St. John gets to the intersection just ahead of the cars of Fenwick and the number 11B of Gary Bedell.
Rodney passes Mike back into
In
third place.
all of that, Rodney Sizemore has now moved back into the 3rd place. Mike St. John is in 4th place. Those drivers are the better part of a half lap behind the leader, Mike. Oh, Mike St. John almost hit Dawsey in one side and Jack Dandy in another. They might do it again this time. No, it's going to be this time a confrontation almost between Rodney Sizemore and the number 68 of Walker DeWitt. 125 laps now finished. An eternity already completed for these drivers, yet another eternity yet to be run. We glance at the list of our alternates in this World Championship. We are 30 two alternates deep with the appearance of David Bussey in car number 44B. And there's Mike St. John trying to quickly move around Bussey, so he'll have a chance to catch up to the third place, number 5R of Rodney Sizemore. In heavy traffic, about a half stretch back of the leader is the number 10 of Dwayne Lee. Lee had to slow down, just barely clocked over the marker tire in the inside of a 4 abreast clock that went through the intersection. And again, Dwayne Lee is almost a quarter lap behind Dawsey in the number 1 as Dawsey comes through the intersection, charging as hard as he can, fighting his way through traffic, trying to find some clear ground so he can go for an even bigger victory as he goes around Gaddis's car. Oh, St. John and Dawsey almost ran their last lap that time, and the car of David Bussey at the intersection slammed Rich Fenwick's number 4. Fenwick gets restarted, but he has to repeat that southbound loop, and that has put Fenwick one more lap down. And also making an extra southbound loop is the number 68 of Walker DeWitt. Fenwick, the national figure 8 champion, and somebody has had a bumper torn off their car, and that bumper is now torn up all over the infield. I think that may be the front bumper off of the number 56 X car of Denny Buckler that now sits at the north end of the racetrack, oozing steam from damage to the front end. Well, that bumper is going to get knocked all over the racetrack, and so far we're going to run with that bumper there. There are cars running over it. Now Newkirk runs over the bumper, so does Scott Martin, so does Doug Gregg that came back onto the racetrack. And we'll watch as that circumstance develops. Here's Jack Dawsey Jr. at the intersection. The Scott Martin car almost caught him again. Again, the leader is the number 1 of Jack Dawsey Jr. as we're midway through the 51st minute of the first lap of this race. In second place is the number 10 of Dwayne Lee. Closing up in third place is the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore, who has come from a lap down. If Rodney Sizemore had not made that marker tire error, he would currently have a half-lap lead over Dawsey. Instead, it's the other way around. At the crossover, Lee and Dawsey come within inches of each other. Let's explain again the circumstance with the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore. Watch out, the crossover! The car of Jack Dawsey Jr. had to slide wide to keep from running into the number 71 of Charles Cole. But Dawsey's lead is large enough to the point where I think he stayed in the lead. No, now it's the number 21 of Douthit getting spun out by the number 75 of Olberding. And now the cars are slowing down, looking for yellow. Dawsey stays underway. And again, I think the circumstance is that Dawsey's lead was large enough to the point that he managed to hold on to first place. What has changed is that Rodney Sizemore is now in second place in the 5R. That puts the Dwayne Lee number 10 back to third place, and Mike St. John is in fourth place. Several cars are out of it. We see Steve Prine trying to get underway at the number 59. Now Rich Fenwick at the 4R. An uncharacteristic bump with the number 9, L of Leonard Basham. And now they're being caught up by the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore, your second place driver. And in the middle of all this is Ken Carpenter. The 66A car does an extra circle at the north side of the racetrack. Again, we're watching to find out how this is going to develop as it's getting thoroughly insane. More and more cars, maybe 35 or 40 cars on the track right now as the number 72 of Mike Nelson gets back underway after stalling for a moment. And we're coming down to finish halfway through the 53rd minute of this race, and there's the first appearance of the 33rd alternate. That means there have been 55 cars that had a chance to run in this World Championship of Figure 8 Racing. We have another couple of dozen. No, head on, nose to tail, 2 crashes the intersection. The number 4 of George Sutton hit Walker DeWitt's car, and the number 33 of Doug Gregg hit somebody. We have several stalled cars on the northbound run through the intersection, and those cars now, Sutton gets going. So does Walker DeWitt does not roll, and Doug Gregg appears to be stalled as well as we're coming down to caution once again. And again, the series of nose-to-tail hits caused the yellow flag, and another bit of bad luck for the number 33 of Doug Gregg. Jim Fox, I thought Gregg in the 33 car was clear of that mess, and then suddenly we look up there and wham, there he is.
I believe it was the number 7 car caught him in the tail end and put him right into the middle of it, Kevin.
Well, that's what happens. It's kind of like traffic when guys get impatient. It's almost like driving on snow or ice. You stop short to keep from running into somebody, then somebody runs into you. Only this isn't snow, it's pavement.
the easiest line on this track is everybody doing the same thing each and every lap, but that's not the way it comes out. If it's predictable, everybody can find a hole, everybody can go on, and it's all clean and green. But some guys change. They aren't predictable. And when somebody changes and you're used to them going and they start to stop, then that's when things are breaking loose.
And one of those unpredictable guys is Fred Bear, who has been watching this. Fred, what are your impressions of what have been happening here with Rodney Sizemore getting back on the lead lap and Jack Dawsey Jr. almost getting his car smashed into pieces over here on the wall, and all these guys doing all sorts of insane things on the racetrack? What do you think about the way this World Championship gone so far as we're almost done with the first hour of this 3-hour race?
I tell you what, you got to be impressed with that number 5 car, Rodney Sizemore. He's just flying. He's the fastest car out there. He came back. He's on the lead lap now. And look where he's at. He's sitting right behind the leader in the number 2 spot.
And here they go, tearing it loose, and there's the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore, having made up his lap under green flag racing, is coming back for a battle for the lead with the number 1 of Jack Dawsey Jr. But first they have to watch for traffic at the intersection, such as the number 75 of Alan Overting. Finishing minute number 57 of the first hour of this race. 2 or 3 cars jammed together at the third turn. No harm, no foul. They keep on going as we see cars that are knocking each other all over the road. Those guys are at the intersection. Here come the leaders. They had to hesitate to keep from destroying the number 69 of Tom Collins. The leaders have a wall of metal ahead of them at the intersection, and they barely get ahead of that constant battle for position at the crossover. Out of the crossover, the number 56 of Danny hit Norman's number 51, and now the number 16 car smashes into both of them. Number 16R of Roger Vincent got into the number 56 of Danny, who in turn had been hit by the number 2 of Jerry Whitten on the 75 of Alan Overting, ran over the front end of the number 65 of Bob Whitaker. And it's all we can do to identify these cars after the crash has happened, because we're starting to get into the difficult times of the World Championship race. As now, it's not just a 1-car crash, it's 6-car, 3-phase chain reaction melees.
Mike St. John got a flat tire.
And now we're watching Mike St. John. Fred Bear has pointed out that St. John appears to be in trouble. He is cutting both ways around the track. St. John has a deflating right rear tire. Mike St. John is going back into the pit area. And Mike St. John, one of our leaders, is going back into the pit area. Larry Harris, go and chase him down if you can. Mike St. John is going in for a pit stop to make a tire change on the right rear. Now, if St. John does that extremely quickly, he can get back on the lead lap, but he has only a couple of minutes to do that. Here come the leaders coming down to complete lap number 146 at a slow pace behind the pace car, as the wrecker has gone out to get Jack Danny's 56 and the number 16R of Roger Vincent. And so you can imagine what's happening back in the pit area right now, Jim Fox, with the St. John car.
St. John has just got probably the luckiest break. It's going to take enough time probably to clean up the wreckage here on the front straightaway. I think you'll see him come right out of that pit gate in just a minute. If there's no more damage than the flat tire, he's not going to get hurt too bad, Kevin.
But he's got to present that car here to the gate just as that machine, as the pace car gets to the third turn. Larry Harris, you're back there. Any observations?
I'll tell you what, Kevin, it's pretty wild right now. Just a couple of minutes in, I feel like I've been out here for an hour. It's pretty interesting.
And that is Larry Harris talking to us from the racetrack. He is in the number 11 car. Now we watch to see, will Mike St. John get back onto the racetrack? The answer is no. He will not be able to get back onto the track in time to run on the lead lap. Well, they're 2 guys that deserve each other. The number 11 of Larry Harris and the number 99 of Scott Box. How crazy is it, Larry?
That's pretty, the racetrack's real slick right now, Kevin. Hard to get a bite. Corners are real slick. A lot of cars out here, a lot of damage. Seems like everybody's trying to win it on this lap.
And you heard Larry Harris, Jim Fox. Larry Harris said it's getting very slippery out there. I mean, is that the sort of thing that you notice?
Oh, yes. The speeds these gentlemen are running, as fast as this race is going, and the big wide tires that they're running, you tend to airplane quite quickly on any kind of moisture. And with the wrecks we've been having here, both the water and the oil getting tracked around this track, it will be slick until the pace picks up. There's not a few accidents, and they can burn that off the track, Kevin.
And we noticed that Mike St. John came back onto the racetrack, but he is running 1 lap down. Mike St. John did lose 1 lap on the pit stop to replace the tire. Now we come to the restart of the new battle for the lead between the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore, the number 1 of Jack Dawsey Jr. Working lap 149. For a couple of laps, they will have an empty intersection, and Dwayne Lee kind of holding back there in 3rd place, watching those leaders battling each other. But as they go faster and faster, they've got a wall of metal to avoid, and they manage to cut through just in time to survive. The 1 of Dawsey holds on to the lead ahead of the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore. Dwayne Lee in number 10 runs in 3rd. They split between the 26 of Begley and the number 74 of Dale Canals. The top 3 drivers running nose to tail on the lead lap. There's Mike St. John holding up for those leaders, and Gary Bedell cutting between Newkirk and the number 69 of Collins. Battle for the lead comes through a jammed intersection now and clears just in time for the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd place drivers to go on through. Now we are finished 1 hour, and we are now 1 hour and 40 seconds into the 2nd hour of this World Championship race. The cars, some of them tiptoe through the intersection. Many of them take it all at once. And here come the leaders. 1 Dawsey, the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore, and the number 10 of Dwayne Lee, cutting underneath the number 69 of Collins. Looking for room in the intersection. There almost was none, as Jack Dandy almost took out all 3 leaders in one fell swoop. Through all of that, Dawsey got another length or so over Rodney Sizemore, and Dwayne Lee falls back in 3rd place. Again, the 4th place driver unofficially would be Mike St. John to the number 3. St. John decides to take it easy in this sequence, running 1 lap down.
Oh.
And at the intersection, Rodney Sizemore nailed the number 1 of Dawsey going into turn number 1. Almost spun the leader out, but they continue to run as they come through traffic. Dawsey trying to get away from Rodney Sizemore. Runs in 3 abreast racing. 2 cars have crashed coming onto the 4th turn. One of them is Kelly Fegley's number 26. The other one is the number 59 of Steve Prine. Prine's car appears to be disabled. Now he will crawl slowly away.
Oh.
And now 3 cars have crashed over in turn number 1. Begley, the 26, got the number 71 of Charles Coles, slowed up the 96 of Rogers, and the number 11B of Gary Bedell. There's the former world champion, Leonard Basham, crawling through the intersection. And through all of this, the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore, through this series of incidents, has come to the lead. Can he hold it? Heavy traffic cutting through the intersection. And Rodney Sizemore stays just barely ahead, as Alan Overding may be going up in smoke as well. Now the intersection has cleared out, and the Danny Apperson number 08 car has a flat tire. He stalled right in the middle of the corner. Larry Harris has crashed along with Steve Prine and the 31 of Larry McIntyre, and we're coming to yellow. We will come to yellow. Now Larry Harris is trying to get his car underway, and will do so, but just bit by bit, as the number 31 of Larry McIntyre stays stalled, facing the wrong direction. And also the Danny Apperson car is stalled over in turn number 3. We had a flat tire, and we see the number 16 of Robbie Loving coming back into the pit area. Well, I'm going to make a major risk here and try and contact Larry Harris on the radio. Larry, what was that all about?
Well, I think we tried to go 5 wide where there's only room for 3 or 4. Kevin, I'll tell you what, I think it's every year since the roughest 3 hour I've ever seen. Everybody's trying to like smack classes. So we're going to see what we can do with them here, so hang on tight.
You heard Larry Harris say it's the wildest 3 hour you've ever seen, Jim Fox. He said they're driving like madmen.
They have from the very first lap, Kevin. They just keep at it. I don't know how long these cars are going to take the pace.
Now, when we, of course, talk about madman drivers, our first resource is to talk to Fred Bear. Fred, do you think they're driving like madmen out there?
There's no question about it, Kevin. I mean, you still got 2 hours left in this race, and they're just not being patient. And I don't know, you know, it's up to those guys out there.
But again, there is something about race driving, Fred Bear. We've seen it from you as well as from everybody else. They always sit, they talk with the crew, they discuss things calmly. They say, take it easy, don't tear it up. Long race, take it easy, take it easy. Green flag flies, the red haze goes up, and wham.
Yeah, I mean, it's in your adrenaline, you know. Once that green flag comes down, you go, and you just got to stay with the pace, and the leader sets the pace, and that's where you got to follow through.
Of course, the only question in this World Championship race is, who is the leader from lap to lap? It's been Rodney Sizemore in the lead, 1 lap down, back in the lead. Rodney, the number 1 of Jack Dawsey Jr. up and down, back and forth, but never out of the top 5. Dwayne Lee has had his luck good and bad. And Mike St. John is trying to get back to the front after falling a lap down to the flat tire that came just as the yellow came out. And then you see the cars that are all torn up. There is Dawsey's team car, Gary Bedell, the number 11, with the left rear corner of the car all caved in. Bedell doesn't care, he's going to keep on going. They're all over the place. You see wheel marks and bent fenders and ripped up bumpers, even on the lead cars. As we come to the restart, let's see how fate plays itself out as Rodney Sizemore and Jack Dawsey Jr. force Dennis Dameron and Country Brown out of their way at the intersection. Now Sizemore looks for a gap in the intersection where cars are stopped and lined up 3 abreast. With the appearance of Dameron at number 67, we're now to the 41st alternate, and we're only 1 hour, 6 minutes, and 20 seconds into this 3-hour race. Now, Rodney Sizemore slowed down a bit in the second turn to keep him running into the back end of the number 74. Dale Kanowski almost nailed the number 10 of Newkirk. Now they're trying to race around the number 76 of Scott Martin. Wall of metal. Oh, Doug Gray got hit and spun through the intersection by Jerry Whitten at full speed. Somehow Doug Gray survived a terrifying 100-mile-an-hour slide through the intersection. He'll go back into the pit area, but at least he's alive. The number 5 of Rodney Sizemore saw that car sliding across his bow at full speed, totally out of control, and somehow kept on going. Rodney Sizemore in the intersection. He collided with the number 71 of Charles Coles and has crashed out of the lead. Now, can Rodney Sizemore get going? The answer is yes, but he's fallen back to 3rd place, and the number 71 of Charles Coles restarts as well. But Rodney Sizemore, who had fought all night for the lead, almost throws it away again at the intersection with the number 96 of Gary Rogers. And there's Newkirk cutting slowly across the intersection as a whole bunch of guys are passing the number 71 of Charles Coles. If you take all of that risk at the intersection, you take the big chance, and sometimes you make it go, sometimes it doesn't. And the guy that says thank you very much is Jack Dawsey Jr., who has the lead once again. Second place is 10 Dwayne Lee. Surviving that crossover crash to run in 3rd place is the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore. And again, by my reckoning, 4th place, 1 lap down, is the number 3 of Mike St. John. And again, as Larry Harris, Jim Fox, and Fred Bear, our driver experts, have told us, this is the most intense, the wildest World Championship race they have ever seen. They say they're driving like madmen out there. They don't know why there isn't a disaster on every lap. And it looks as if they're just on the crossover. Wayne Newkirk ran into the back end of Bob Brandenburg's car, broke his radiator. Brandenburg has a damaged rear end and drops off the track. Newkirk spraying water all over the racetrack, keeps on going, and Newkirk will make a pit stop in the blue number 10. Again, we keep on asking ourselves, why isn't there a disaster on every lap? As we see the number 44, David Bussey, with a flat tire. The answer appears to be there's going to be a disaster on every lap tonight at the World Championship of Figure 8 Racing. Finishing minute number 9, Dawsey crashes into the number 56 of Jack Dandy and almost loses, now he does lose the lead to the number 10 of Dwayne Lee as Dawsey trying to pass Dandy. And now the lead goes back to Rodney Sizemore. Second place will be Dwayne Lee, and in 3rd place is Dawsey. And again, Mike St. John in 4th place, 1 lap down. Every one of the leaders has been involved in a major crash so far tonight, and they keep on going. And the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore cuts through the intersection. Fred Bear Jr., you are standing here with your mouth open. You say you can't believe how hard Rodney Sizemore is driving with a car that's already been wrecked twice.
I tell you what, Rodney's just flat out flying. You got to tip your hat off to Audie Moose. I mean, he built the car. You got to tip the, the crew. They've done everything to prepare this 5 car.
And Rodney Sizemore keeps on taking the risk. And now the number 16 of Jay Wayner bumps the Jack Dandy car. Dandy's still going. He's been in 4 wrecks so far tonight, and he still rolls, but not particularly well. Again, coming through the intersection. We're looking for all of the traffic to somehow cut on through there as Mike St. John barely escapes ahead of the number 76 of Scott Martin. Rodney Sizemore in 3 abreast traffic. It's 4 abreast for Rodney Sizemore out of turn number 4. He collided with the number 779 of Ray Gaddis and got away with it. And Rodney Sizemore, even though he sideswiped Gaddis's car, holds on to the lead. Watching through the intersection to see if Basham, Coles, and the number 11 car were going to get on through there. Again, sometimes things are about ready to happen. You sit back and watch to find out if the wreck is going to take place. There's the crash. The number 74 car of Canals got hit and spun out by the number 16 car of Robbie Loving, and then he got speared by the number 31 of McIntyre and the number 27 of Eddie Deal, and completely out of control. Oh, watch out, Dawsey, and the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore almost crashed as the number 16 car of Robbie Loving is dropping oil and water all over the track, and another crash in turn number 1 with a tire torn off of a car. It's the number 25 of Clayton Roten who got hit by the 779 of Gaddis, the number 71 of Coles, and the number 75 of Oberding. And through all of this, Jack Dawsey Jr. has finally decided to make his first pit stop of the night. From that angle of distance, we couldn't tell if Dawsey suffered any damage in that car. But again, Jim Fox, we're going to watch to find out if Dawsey can get back onto the racetrack. Notice one very important point. There's Mike St. John, 1 lap down, staging right behind the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore. He wants to get a lap back from Rodney when he come back to green.
Yes, he does. I was watching Jack as he was going in. I do not believe he was damaged. I think this is probably a fuel stop at this point.
A fuel stop or a tire stop or a take your breath stop, you call it. Now notice here, the entire field is being sent underneath that first turn marker tire. This is not going to be scored as a marker tire violation against anyone. Instead, the track crew was ordering everybody to go down to the inside so they can get the number 25 of Clayton Roten, the number 25 R car, off the track. Again, the entire field will cut down to the inside. That is not a marker tire violation against any of the drivers because they are being ordered there by the track workers. So what and now notice that the number 3 of Mike St. John slowed down and stopped. Now that was a strange deal. St. John slowed down and stopped there, and I guess he was being ordered back into the middle of the pack. That's the circumstance, Jim Fox. St. John had tried to pick up some positions and wanted to pull him alongside the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore to try to stage himself to get back on the lead lap. Instead, he's been ordered to the middle of the pack. Now St. John will be in 3rd place, and he'll be racing with Dawsey for position 1 lap down when we come to the green flag, with the leader being the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore, the number 10 of Dwayne Lee being in 2nd place. Jim, I still can't believe this. Every time I try to set up the strategic circumstances, there's a crash. Every time I try to call a race for the lead, 3 other guys run into each other. All of this in this World Championship of Figure 8 racing. Now I understand why this place is jammed.
That's right, Kevin, and it appears even though they've been in situations, Rodney especially has been in some altercations, so has Dwayne Lee. They are still back up the front. Jack made a pit stop. I don't think he was damaged, but I think it was a scheduled pit stop at this point, but he's still in the chase.
And Dawsey gets on the throttle hard as the leaders are unleashed to begin lap number 177. Midway through the 15th minute, 2-car spin out of turn number 2. The 22 of Country Brown to the number 75 of Alan Oberding. They will get restarted, and Jack Dandy's still out there somehow after being in several wrecks. The number 5 of Rodney Sizemore will come through the intersection just barely ahead of the number 74 of Dale Canals and lead. His lead is about 1 turn over the number 10 of Dwayne Lee. 3rd place I'll give to the number 3 of Mike St. John, 1 lap down. And 4th place I will give to the number 1 of Jack Dawsey Jr., 1 lap down. There is no rule that says that you have to make a pit stop in the World Championship of Figure 8 Racing, although many of the drivers do choose to do so for fuel or for tires or for whatever reason. And some are forced to make a pit stop because of damage their cars have suffered. And even though all of the leaders have been involved in one sort of crash or spin or collision or another, everybody still rolls pretty much at full speed as Dawsey almost gets in a collision with the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore as they come through the intersection. working the 16th minute of the second hour of this 3-hour World Championship Figure 8 race. Rodney Sizemore fights his way through a jam crossover lap after lap. Comes out of the fourth turn, looks for a gap, finds it between Bedell and the number 9 of Leonard Basham.
Dawsey's made up half a lap.
And Dawsey is starting to make up some ground. Dawsey watches out for two cars that collide. The number 75 of Oberding and the number 74 of Canals, which are more or less team cars, got into each other coming out of the fourth turn. And Oberding takes his time getting restarted at the intersection, very close between Dwayne Lee, the number 10, and the number 1 of Dawsey. As again, it is now getting to the point where they're, watch out, how did the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore find his way through there? Now things are getting interested among the team cars. Again, Joe Simpson has 2 cars in this race. The number 11 of Gary Bedell has lost a lot of laps because of a lot of collisions. And Dawsey, the number 1, lost 1 lap because of a pit stop during yellow. Now Dawsey is on the charge, as only Dawsey has been able to do. And now we've got 2 cars that have crashed over in the area of the first turn. One of them is the number 29, and I'm not sure which one the other one is. I hope it's not Ray the Animal Gaddis in the number 779. And the leaders are going to have to be careful going under them as we come down to the yellow. No, it's not Gaddis, but again, this angle and distance, I'm having a little trouble finding out which car that second machine is that was involved in that crash coming out of turn number 2. And it may be a circumstance, Jim Fox, where maybe Rodney Sizemore deliberately went out there with maybe 3/4 of a tank of gas, figuring, or half a tank of gas, figuring he'd have to come in and refuel.
He could have very easily done that. A little lighter car maybe handles a little better for him or whatever. He was going to try to get some laps, get some time, get some position. Now he's behind some mighty slow traffic, though, and got to work his way all the way back, but he's still on the lead lap.
But that's not the case for 2 other drivers, the number 3 of Mike St. John and the number 1 of Jack Dawsey Jr. Those drivers, 1 lap down, are racing in 3rd and 4th place. They are racing within a couple of car lengths of each other as they barely avoid the number 59 of Steve Prime. That's the next developing battle at this World Championship of Figure 8 racing between the number 3 of Mike St. John, who runs in 3rd place 1 lap down, and the number 1 of Jack Dawsey Jr., who runs in 4th place 1 lap down. Heavy traffic at the intersection is forcing a major gauntlet for the leaders as the number 66 of Carpenter and the number 96 of Rogers slowed down, and Mike St. John almost speared the number 95 of Kim Gibson. But again, that's Figure 8 racing as leader the number 10 of Dwayne Lee gets to the intersection, and now 2 cars have crashed over in turn number 3. Another crash for the 76 of Scott Martin, this time involving the number 68 of Walker DeWitt. The leaders are bearing down on these wrecked cars. Now they'll go between the 3rd turn marker tire and DeWitt's number 68. Let's see if everybody can keep from smashing into DeWitt's car. They will fan out around him right and left. No, they won't. Apperson in the number 08 car got put into the wall by fellow Michigander, number 66 Carpenter. The number 11 of Bedell and the number 70 of Ron Brigden got caught up in that mess, and we're coming down to yellow once again. So here's the circumstance. We've got ourselves the pace car that's trying to pick up the leader and arrange them properly. And the way they're going to line up, you're going to have, oh, this is going to be something. There's the number 10 of Dwayne Lee coming into the pit area and stopping. That is going to put Dawsey and the number 3 of Mike St. John back on the lead lap. But on this restart order, things are going to get crazy.
Because of this traffic and because it's held up here, Kevin, if that's a routine fuel stop for Dwayne Lee, he could come back out, and theoretically, they could still be a lap down.
Okay, now we're waiting to find out what the decision of the officials is going to be as far as waving around the cars that are directly ahead of Rodney Sizemore, who takes over the lead. Now, what they're going to do is they're going to send all of the cars that are ahead of Sizemore past the pace car and stage Sizemore in directly behind the pace car as the leader of the race. That means that the number 1 of Dawsey and the number 3 of Mike St. John have made up their lap and are running in 2nd and 3rd place. Dwayne Lee will come back onto the racetrack and rejoin the race in 2nd place after a quick fuel stop. That will put Dwayne Lee in second place, the number 10. Put the number 1 of Dawsey in third place. Put the number 3 of Mike St. John in fourth place, as I see it. As I see it, and again, we'll have to double check with our scores. I believe that circumstance is correct. With 5 Sizemore, 10 Lee, 1 Dawsey, and 3 St. John, first, second, third, and fourth running on the lead lap. We are just short, 6 minutes short of the halfway mark of this race. 4 drivers on the lead lap. Jim Fox, that's something.
It's extremely thrilling, Kevin. The pack is staying together. The track is running fast. The guys are running clean. Even for the, the accidents we are having, they've all been good. I mean, they've been safe crashes. No one's been seriously hurt. Cars have been damaged, but the cars are being fixed and they're coming back out on the track, Kevin.
Larry Harris, we just got your radio call. Tell us again what you had to say a moment or so ago. It looks as if Larry's getting set for the restart. It's a bit too late to talk to Larry. He's at work right now as we come to the green flag. As we begin lap number 195 and start the 25th minute of this race. The leader is the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore. Second, third, and fourth place are caught near the back of the pack. Dwayne Lee in second place, the number 10. Third place is the number 1 of Dawsey. Fourth place is the number 1 of St. John, and they almost took each other out at the intersection. That was the first and fourth place drivers within inches of destroying each other, and Rodney Sizemore found an unexisting gap between Newkirk's 10 and Dawsey's number 1. We know Rodney Sizemore is driving hard. Now he's driving dangerous. He's taking risks that no sane person would take. Or do you consider those sane risks, Jim Fox?
Oh, yes. When you're trying to win this, you got to find those holes, Kevin. At the pace they're running, you can't wait around.
And we are looking at a 400-lap race this year at the pace they are running right now. We find ourselves 4 minutes and 25 seconds away from the halfway mark of this World Championship of Figure 8 racing. And Rodney Sizemore, the number 5, even with a number of cautions that have slowed the race several times, is running at a 400-lap pace. He is coming down to finish lap number 198. And his advantage is the better part of 3/4 of a lap over the number 10 of Dwayne Lee. Third place in heavy traffic is the number 1 of Mac Dawsey Jr. In fourth place in extremely heavy traffic is the number 3 of Mike St. John. There's Johnson's car getting jostled out of the way of Leonard Basham and several other drivers, and just ahead of a phalanx of 4 cars is the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore. It is an awesome sight, Jim Fox, as these drivers fight each other as if it was the last lap of their lives.
Not only, fatigue's starting to play a little bit into this, Kevin. The car's wearing down. The clutches are getting a little worse. The brakes are heating up, and the driver's nerves are getting fried. You're seeing a lot more bumping, pushing, shoving, and so forth around in between the drivers as they come down through the straightaways. It's going to start taking its toll on machines here soon.
Something has been knocked loose. You can see it's a red sort of thing that is dangling down there and actually scraping on the racetrack. And now it just came loose. I think it was an overflow bottle of some sort that came off of Mike St. John's car. Yeah, it was some sort of gas can overflow bottle that came off of Mike St. John's car. We'll have to double check because that might not cost St. John that much trouble. Now the number 57 of Sloan put into the wall by another car, bringing with it the number 76 of Scott Martin in the first turn. And Martin, who backs up, bangs into the front end of the number 779 of Ray Gaddis. Gaddis has stopped short of that 3-car crash. I did not see who hit the number 57 of Sloan and put him into the wall, but somebody did wreck him, and that took out also the 76 of Martin. And Martin backed into Gaddis. Gaddis stopped short in the 779 car. In any case, whatever that was dangling loose on Mike St. John's number 3, it appears no longer to be a problem. As you can tell, St. John took a big hit on the right rear of that car, and it dislodged something over there. There was fairly some sort of overflow tank. There's still a couple of things that are dangling down there, but as far as I can tell, that's no significant damage to St. John's number 3, Jim Fox.
No, the suspension all looks intact. The car looks to be running. Jack Dawsey, I noticed, though, has kind of slipped off the pace just a little bit. I don't know whether he's slowing down intentionally, wanting to endure the rest of this race, or just he's running in amongst some slower traffic, some of the later starters in the race. He may be having a problem just working his way to the front.
And with 72 cars already have been given a chance to run in this World Championship of Figure 8 racing, you can imagine how crazy it's going to be. We glance over toward the alternates line, and we still do have several other cars. I can see about what looks like maybe a half dozen more cars and drivers at least that are lined up, they're ready to go. Overall, we had 76 cars take qualifying times over 2 days of time trials for the World Championship of Figure 8 Racing. There are a couple of other cars that did not come out to take time trials. They will have to start behind everybody else. The spread from fast time to the slowest qualifier, fast time was Jack Dawsey Jr., just under 17 seconds. Slow time was David Reel at 21.5. That's the better part of 4 seconds or so on the Figure 8 course, but it seems a lot more like that in traffic. Or at least it's... Now we see as Sloan's number 57 is being brought off the track, and again we reestablish the strategic situation. We are midway through the 35th minute of the second hour of the World Championship of Figure 8 Racing, a 3-hour Figure 8 endurance race at the Indianapolis Speedrome. There have been 4 drivers that have figured in and out of the battle for the lead throughout much of the race. They've been separated by a lap, no more than that, as they've made pit stops in the second hour of the race. The leader is the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore, the driver that was runner-up in his first ever World Championship race in 1992. In second place is the driver that defeated Rodney Sizemore that year, the winner of the World Championship in 92, the number 10 of Dwayne Lee. In third place is the defending World Figure 8 champion, Jack Dawsey Jr., in car number 1. And in fourth place is the 3-time World Champion in car number 3, Mike St. John. All of those drivers and many more are unleashed to the green flag. Trying to pass the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore and get a lap back is the number 4 of Rich Fenwick, the number 4F of Fenwick, who is the National Figure 8 champion for 1994. Fenwick probably has lost several laps in this race. Now Fenwick may try a second half of this race charge where he tries to come back to the lead by moving past Rodney Sizemore and getting laps back in strategic circumstances. After a collision between Bob Brandenburg in 45 and the 21 of Bobby Douthit and another spin by the number 56 of Jack Dandy, the leaders are trying to cut their way through this traffic that is all over the place. Watch out for Dandy, who is stalled for a moment in the middle of the second turn exit. Now Dandy gets back underway. At the intersection, somehow the 22 of Country Brown gets through under a nice, smooth way. But we notice that now the number 4F of Rich Fenwick has fallen yet again a lap or so behind the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore. Fenwick had gotten by Sizemore, but in that heavy traffic, Sizemore in the 5R got past the number 4F of Rich Fenwick. The number 10 of Dwayne Lee has been separated from the leader by a lot of extreme traffic and has not been able to move back up toward that area of the front of the field. Rodney Sizemore has been the aggressor. He's been the driver that's been taking a lot of chances during this phase of the World Championship of Figure 8 Racing at the Indianapolis Speedrome. Rodney Sizemore watches as the traffic fans out 4 abreast, and the number 10 of Dwayne Lee tries to take advantage of it, but he gets caught in that intense 4 abreast racing. Here's Rodney Sizemore coming down to finish 218 laps in 1 hour, 37 minutes. Our indication is that this is the fastest World Championship pace in 8 years. Rance Harmon got 411 laps that year. This year, we're looking at well over 400 laps. This would be one of the rare cases under this format of the World Championship of Figure 8 Racing that we would complete more than 400 laps. There's the number 9 car of Leonard Basham, a former world champion, holding up at the intersection, and collision between Bobby Douthit and Danny Apperson, and that took out Larry Harris. Harris ran right into the front end of Bobby Douthit's number 21. Harris's car looks to be stalled and completely out of it. And there's Larry Harris lobbying for a yellow and getting it. As we have told you, we have radio communications with Larry Harris. I wonder if we're going to be able to establish those communications and find out how Larry feels after being wrecked. I will take a small chance with propriety and see if I can reach Larry Harris right now. Larry Harris, this is Kevin O'Neill. How do you feel about being wrecked? There are no responses from Larry Harris's car. rather than respond to us. He's trying to get out of the machine before he gets smashed into oblivion, and you cannot blame him for that. But again, Fred Bear Jr., even for a relatively even-tempered person such as Larry Harris, to get wrecked out of the race when it's not your fault does not feel good at all.
Not at all. It doesn't feel good, but you know, that's just part of racing. Those things are going to happen. But look who's in third place now. Second place, #1 car, Jack Dawsey, fought his way back up in the front.
And we notice that the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore, look at this interesting 3 abreast battle of wills. What's happening now? That's not the start of the Indianapolis 500. The 5 of Rodney Sizemore has the lead. The number 75 of Alan Oberding wants to line up behind Rodney Sizemore, beside Rodney Sizemore on the restart, but so does the number 4 F of Fenwick, trying to get a lap back. Well, Fenwick got his way and Oberding fell back. Pace car is told to get out of the way. He'll unleash the leader into a wall of metal, and he'll just barely get through. That's how badly they want to win in the World Championship. Here's the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore through a crowded crossover. In second place is the number 10 of Dwayne Lee. The third place driver is the number 1 of Jack Dawsey Jr. as Sizemore finds his way through a massive gauntlet of cars. And in fourth place is Mike St. John as the number 3. As a result of this restart, watch out as the number 4 of Rich Fenwick spins over in turn number 1. Fenwick slowly backs the car out of the way, and he will lose another lap. Fenwick and now cars have collided coming through the intersection, and trouble for everybody as the leader, the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore, barely got through that slow crossover incident that included the number 779 of Ray Gaddis. Through all of this, the lead continues to go to the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore. This is an impossible way for Sizemore. There's nowhere for him to go. And just at the last second, a hole opens up, and Rodney Sizemore is able to take advantage of it. Rodney Sizemore now has injected himself with about a half-dozen slower cars between a 3-car battle for second place in incredibly heavy traffic. 4 abreast going into the third turn, with Mike St. John in third place on the inside, passing the fourth place number 10 of Dwayne Lee. Dwayne Lee ran up against the wall all the way through turns number 3 and 4 just to hold on to fourth place. And now 2 or 3 cars are slamming each other all over the racetrack, almost putting the number 4 Fenwick into the wall again. Fenwick got restarted. And through all of this, Rodney Sizemore finds gaps that should not exist, jams down to the inside, and overlaps again the number 76 of Scott Martin. 1 hour and 44 minutes completed, and Rodney Sizemore continues to find non-existent holes. His lead is about 1/4 lap over the number 1 of Jack Dawsey Jr. In third place, you've got the number, who is in third place? It'll be the number 10 of Dwayne Lee. And where is the fourth place? Number 3 of Mike St. John. No, Mike St. John is now in third place. I stand corrected. St. John is in third place, the number 3. We lost track of him for a moment, and Dwayne Lee has been drop kicked all the way back to fourth place, rather, about 3/4 of a lap down.
Him and Fenwick got together. That's what put him back there.
After that collision between Dwayne Lee and Fenwick, that has put Dwayne Lee 3/4 of a lap down. The number 5 of Rodney Sizemore has the quarter lap advantage over the number 1 of Dawsey. And every lap is a show in the intersection. The 25 of Bilbrey came within inches of destroying the lead car, who then had to watch out for the spinning number 35 of Mike Hughes. Again, Jim Fox, it's looking as if the racetrack is absolutely jammed shut. How is Rodney Sizemore going to continue to be able to take those chances and have a race car in one piece at the end?
I don't know how he's going to do it. He has been extremely, extremely lucky.
Whoa, he ran out of luck when he smashed the number 70 of Ron Rigdon. There absolutely was no hole there. And the leader has crashed out of the World Championship of Figure 8 Racing. Will stay under green because both of the wrecked cars are out of the way. The number 5 of Rodney Sizemore will get restarted, but the car will not run. And Rodney Sizemore has crashed away his best chance ever to be the World Figure 8 champion. We were just saying, Jim, watch out as the 44 of Bussey got knocked out of the way by the number 75 of Alan Overding. We were just discussing how Rodney Sizemore was taking unbelievable risks. And now Jack Dawsey Jr. Gets just barely out of the way. The 72 of Nelson. This is Nelson collides with Bussey in the number 44. And Bussey keeps on going as well as Nelson. As we were mentioning, Jim Fox, we were discussing there, just as the crash happened, that the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore might be driving too hard. He was taking insane risks in order to win the race. And now it all came together, and you could see that crash coming from a mile away.
He was threading the needle so tight, so close, he was living mighty dangerous. He lasted a long time, but it eventually caught up with him, Kevin.
At 1 hour and 45 minutes of, watch out, Gary Bedell speared the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore. Bedell was looking for some place to go, couldn't find it, and hit the number 5 of Rodney Sizemore just after Sizemore's car had been in a crash. And we're coming down to yellow again. And I think, look at this, it's so tough tonight, even the pace car may have blown a motor. The pace car going up in smoke, trying to get restarted to come over here and check out Rodney Sizemore. Rodney's moving around in his car. Looks like Rodney's okay, but his car is junk, and he almost got hit a third time by the number 27 of Eddie Deal.
It is absolutely a madhouse at these yellow flags, Kevin. I can't believe these guys take that chances when it doesn't count. It doesn't count, and they're still having collisions in the crossover under the yellow.
Rodney Sizemore appears to be in pretty good shape. And Rodney Sizemore will gradually, with just a bit of assistance, get out of his wrecked race car. He fought the good fight, and he came up just a bit short. He has won the admiration of the Speedrome fans, but he has lost himself a race car. But again, Rodney Sizemore, just like everybody else, Fred Bear, he knew the risks of going through that crossover time after time. You can take some risks and then you can back off. Rodney Sizemore was giving us a thrill, but he was living on the edge.
Yeah, that was just an unfortunate situation that occurred there. But, you know, that's just part of racing again. You just gotta watch what's going on. But, you know, we haven't mentioned his name all night, but in the number 2 spot is the 3 car, Mike St. John. He's right where he wants to be with 1 hour to go.
Now we'll notice that Fred Bear on our Kevin O'Neill's Racing Today show had pretty much all but said that Rodney Sizemore was his favorite to win the World Championship.
Yeah, Rodney, you know, he's been dominating all year. This should have been his race to win, and it would have been, but you know, again, you just got to finish when the checker flag comes out.
And believe it or not, we still have 1 hour and 11 minutes of racing left to go. We have completed 240 laps. The leader, who is now the number 1 of Jack Dawsey Jr., is working his 241st lap. Second place will be the number 3 of Mike St. John. Third place, the number 10 of Dwayne Lee. And that's all we have as far as cars that are running on the lead lap here at the Indianapolis Speedrome.
With 1 hour and 8 minutes left, Kevin, it wouldn't surprise me to see Rodney back out here. He's still running up in the money. If he could get it back together and just clock laps, he could still come up here and run it and finish into the money, Kevin.
Speaking about the money, here are the biggest money drivers in the Indianapolis Speedrome, and here they are back together again. Mike St. John had to hit the brakes to keep from running into the number 96 car of Gary Rogers. The number 1 of Jack Dawsey Jr. and the number 3 of Mike St. John are now running at the front of the field, first and second. Dwayne Lee found a tiny gap between Rogers and the 95 of Kim Gibson. And now there's Jack Dawsey Jr., who's starting to take a lot of chances as we see Walker DeWitt's number 68 car go spinning over the first turn. He gets restarted in a cloud of smoke. Now Dawsey is finding the gaps, and St. John is kind of taking it easy as there are cars wrecking each other all over the racetrack. In turn number 3 and 4, they managed to get disengaged. We're working the 54th minute of the second hour of the World Championship of Figure 8 Racing. Dawsey has a clear intersection. Mike St. John has a mess. He has to cut in 2 directions to be able to get through that crossover. That lets Dwayne Lee get closer to him. But now there's Jack Dawsey Jr. in that same mess, and he takes it easy. Dawsey will come out of turn number 4, slam at full speed through the crossover, and hold on to the lead. He has a 1 straightaway advantage, which translates on my stopwatch at 5.4 seconds back to Mike St. John. In turn, Mike St. John has 4 car lanes, or 1.4 seconds, over Dwayne Lee. And Dwayne Lee nearly got pinned to the east wall of the racetrack by the 96 of Rogers and the number 22 of Country Brown. And so once again, the crossover starts to become a living thing, snapping away at race cars as if they were for real. Taking on its own personality lap after lap. Ray Gaddis got hit in the back end by the 779 of Gaddis. Or rather, Apperson got hit by Gaddis, and then Apperson's car stalled, and he almost got hit at the back end full speed by the number 22 of Country Brown. Apperson's car, the 08 car, has stalled on the southbound run. Apperson stays there for the time being, and the officials decide to keep it under green, but he's being missed only by inches by a lot of race cars there. Through all of this, the number 1 of Dawsey continues to lead, and Apperson looks at everybody as he watches to see what is going to happen to Apperson's car. He's getting a lot of thrills out there, and here comes Scott Martin, who would thrill anybody.
That's a seat I definitely wouldn't want to be set in watching this race, Kevin.
And there's Apperson waving out of the window, lobbying for a yellow from the race officials. That yellow has not yet been displayed. Through all of this, the number 1 of Dawsey continues to lead. In second place, Mike St. John at the number 3. And Dwayne Lee runs in third place as Dawsey almost runs into Apperson. He almost got squeezed into Apperson by the number 45 of Brandenburg. And now a car in trouble. Jack Dandy's car explodes in flames over in turn number 1. Dandy quickly gets out of the car. I don't know what happened to Dandy's machine, but it thoroughly exploded in flames coming through turn number 1, and the fire is still there. Dandy quickly got out of the car. He is okay. And we come down to red. For the first time in the World Championship race in several years, we come down to red because of this fire. This is the first time in several years we have had a red flag, and Jack Dandy may be the luckiest man in 2 states because he is alive and apparently unhurt. Jack Dandy is okay.
I didn't see a collision that put him in that position, Kevin. He came down through, and it all of a sudden burst into fire. That happened to me, if you remember, during the season about 3 years ago, where a fuel line going into the carburetor, the flange vibrated and broke off. Now, mine happened to do it on a pace lap getting ready to start. I wasn't under full steam. Jack, on the other hand, was under full steam and pumped a lot of fuel out on the top of that intake manifold when it finally let go.
So again, the number 10 of Dwayne Lee has the lead. And again, here we are coming to the restart. As a result of the sequencing of that red flag, the leader is not in front of the field. The leader is the number 10 of Dwayne Lee. He is in the middle of the pack, and he has got a lot of traffic to fight his way through. Traffic that is shoving each other right and left, up and down. In second place is the number 3 of Mike St. John. St. John's car is kind of bouncing around. I wonder about the state of his suspension. And third place is the number 1 of Jack Dawsey Jr., who's cutting through 3 and 4 abreast traffic. But again, Dwayne Lee is in the middle of the pack and trying to cut his way through some heavy race traffic. And Dwayne Lee is now cut through the first of that gauntlet of traffic as we are now nearly 2 hours into the World Championship race here at the Indianapolis Speedrome. It becomes obvious as they see the 76 of Scott Martin bouncing off the Newkirk number 10, and those guys, I think, have hit each other a couple of times during this race. With the departure of Rodney Sizemore and with the struggling that Rich Fenwick has had in his number 4 car, it now becomes pretty obvious as St. John now runs to second place, and Dawsey to third bounces off the number 779 of Ray Gaddis. With 3 drivers running on the lead laps, it looks more and more as if we are going to have a repeat winner in the World Championship of Figure 8 racing. The leader, Dwayne Lee, won the World Championship in 1992. In second place, the number 1 of Jack Dawsey Jr. is the defending champion, cutting through 4 abreast traffic. And in third place, Mike St. John is going for his 4th victory. That would bring him 1 short of tying the record set by his brother, Kenny St. John. And now trouble as the number 68 of Walker DeWitt spins and hits the wall again, gets restarted. He's done that a lot tonight. At the intersection, the 87 of Danny Turner found his way through some intensely heavy traffic. And the number 10 of Dwayne Lee comes around and finishes lap number 258. Second place is Jack Dawsey Jr., roughly a quarter lap back. In third place is the number 3 of Mike St. John. St. John has not tried to stay up with Dawsey, but St. John takes his time cutting through traffic. There are 12 stopped cars at the intersection, and Dwayne Lee takes it easy. There's the number 52 car clipping the 75. That's the number 52 of David Watkins, the 75 of Alan Oberning. Minor collision, they keep on going. Almost 2/3 of the way through this race. And the number 3 of Mike St. John continue. Watch out of the east side of the racetrack. The Catron brothers almost ran into each other. Jeff Catron in 21, Rob Catron in 29. They almost wrecked each other here on the east side of the racetrack. No harm, no foul. Keep on going. Thank you very much. See you later. Working to close the second hour of this World Championship race. Now, we noticed Fred Bear. We had noticed how the number 3 of Mike St. John had appeared to be bouncing up and down in an unnatural manner. We can see it there. The car is kind of porpoising from the right rear to the left front. You can see how it's bouncing up and down. That car appears to have some sort of shock absorber or spring or suspension problem. That's the sort of thing that looks like a broken shock, doesn't it, Fred?
Exactly. That's what's happened. He's lost his shock back there. I don't know if it's broken or just lost it on him. But, you know, he's going to have to live it out from here.
Now, his brother, Kenny St. John, had one of his great victories in figure 8 racing. Watch out! The number 66 car of Carpenter ran all over the number 26 car of Fegley coming out of the second turn. That stacked up several other cars. Are they stalled? Will they be able to keep on going? There's Fegley going, there's Carpenter, and even Gibson keeps on going, so it's another no harm, no foul. Thank you very much. See you next time sort of deal. Except that Carpenter is caught there right in front of David Reel's number 22R. At the intersection, we saw the cars of Douthit and Witten get together. Now David Reel stalled the number 22. That's the last alternate.
Jack Dawsey's in the lead.
And now Jack Dawsey Jr. has come around the Dwayne Lee car. Dwayne Lee got caught in heavy traffic in turn number 3 and 4, and Dawsey has the lead and is pulling away from Dwayne Lee. That was a surprise one, as Dwayne Lee was probably taking it easy at the intersection. Now, Dwayne Lee ran right into the back end of the Walker DeWitt car and bent Dwayne Lee's bumper back up against the radiator. He almost, oh no, big crash in turn number 4, takes out 5 cars, including the Dennis Dameron car, which is on top of the wall. And the other car is Gary Bedell's machine. There's the number 16 of Jay Wayner. Those cars are in big trouble in the third turn. 18-year-old Dennis Dameron, in his first ever world championship of figure 8 racing, hit the wall and climbed the wall. Now that, Fred Bear, is the sort of wreck that's more frightening than it looks. Dameron's pretty much okay. He's just kind of in a precarious position. That's more embarrassing than harmful.
Yeah, it sure is, but hey, that wall doesn't move, I tell you what.
And so the number 67 of Dameron, he's going to need at least 1, maybe 2 wreckers to get that car back underway. Now the first thing we do is look and see if Mike St. John is still on the racetrack. The answer is yes. The second thing we do is look at the damage to Gary Bedell's car. Well, that's the other side of the race car he hadn't torn up yet, so at least both sides are going to look the same. Number 1, Dawsey, stays on the racetrack and runs in the lead. We glance around for Dwayne Lee's number 10. He stays out as well. Mike St. John, broken shock or knock in the third place. Number 3 car also stays on the racetrack as the A&A wreckers will stage up to the wreck area. Well, Jim Fox, that's kind of a tradition of the World Championship of Figure 8 racing, in which at least once during every race you get a car that ends up kind of on its side or almost upside down. That's inevitable when you have thousands of laps completed on a Figure 8 course in a short period of time.
It is amazing how they can crash. The thing that keeps amazing me is if you look at number 11, it's still out there. That goes a long way to stand behind the integrity of the roll cages and safety gear that are in these cars. You can withstand a crash like that, get together, put a car completely up on the wall, and still put it back in gear and go back racing, Kevin.
But like I was saying, now both sides match.
It's pretty well matched. Yes, he's lost a lot of his aerodynamics, but they match.
He's torn up the back end body work, but the underpinnings still work. Now our attention will go to Mike St. John's number 3 as we are into the final hour of the race, 3.5 minutes into the final hour of this race. Mike St. John, you saw how that car is bouncing and bounding around out there, Jim Fox.
I think it's Donnie Sloan.
The number 67, that's Donnie, is Dennis Dameron's car. As I was saying, we've been watching Mike St. John's car bounce around in an unnatural fashion, porpoising up and down, back and forth. We had been watching St. John earlier signal out of his car, and he's still kind of waving his hand out to people out of the right side of the car. In that case, I think he's as much waving to the fans as anything else. But St. John looks like he's got a suspension problem. We think it's a broken shock. Do you agree, Jim Fox?
I believe it's either the right rear shock or possibly a lot of these cars run what they call the fifth shock. And I believe that fifth shock is probably broken on Mike's car, and the axle is literally, every time he tries to accelerate, it tries to roll. The springs go into a spring bind and lifts the rear end of the car. As he lets off the gas, it settles back down. And you can see every pulse of that throttle by the tail end of the car going up and down, Kevin.
And Mike St. John must live with that for 55 minutes of racing.
Kevin, I noticed water in the first and second turn down here on the south end of the race course. I don't know whether that's presently being dropped off of a car or it was there after one of the collisions we had that brought on this yellow flag. We might watch for traffic to develop in that wet area on the south end of the race course.
We will not have that much time to find out because the Dennis Dameron car has been brought off the wall, leaving behind it the black marks that showed its passing up onto the wall. We now have 53 minutes and 26 seconds of figure eight racing left. The leaders are now working their 271st lap. And maybe with this accelerated pace of yellow flags that we will not reach that 400 lap goal that we had started to set for ourselves in this World Championship. But still, we still do have dozens and dozens of cars on the racetrack getting set for the restart. 1 Dawsey will lead. 3 St. John will be in second. The number 10 of Dwayne Lee will be in third as we come to the restart. Now on this restart, we'll be watching the Mike St. John number 3 to find out if he can stay with Dawsey. A car almost got into the wall. That number 37 machine that just came onto the racetrack almost got himself a major initiation into the world of the World Championship of Figure 8 Racing, bounding all over the track. We're watching Mike St. John at the number 3, watching the rear end of that car bound up and down with what appears to be a broken shock in that car as we see Gary Rogers spin in the 4th turn in the number 96. And Mike St. John still staying fairly close to Dawsey, but Dawsey is, watch out, he almost got caught by his teammate and Scott Fox. And where is Dwayne Lee? Dwayne Lee is still too far back. Mike St. John is back into the lead. Mike St. John, broken suspension and all, as Dawsey took one too many chances at the crossover. Mike St. John back into the lead. Lap number 274, 52 minutes left to go in the 1994 World Championship of Figure 8 Racing. And there's Mike St. John. Here comes Dawsey back on the attack. Mike St. John fights a bucking Bronco. There's the number 26 of Begley spinning out, facing the wrong direction as the leaders come underneath him. We can see Sparks cow coming from the undercarriage of the number 66 of Curtis Murphy, who's the second car right in front of, and now to one side of the leader. Mike St. John almost had the number 74 of Canal slide right into him. It looks as if, whoops, somebody's lost a weight box or something on the racetrack. It's kind of sitting there in an odd angle, but it'll stay there and will stay under green flag racing. Now Overding spins right in front of St. John, almost takes 2 other cars with him. St. John keeps on going. And we are going yellow because of 2 cars that are crashed over in turn number 3. Turn number 1, rather. One of them is the number 75 of Overding, who spun right in front of the leader, St. John. And the second car that spun, we'll have to put the glasses on him. Let's see if that's Brandenburg's number 45. It is. Bob Brandenburg in the number 45 got into the first turn wall just after the number 75 of Overding spun and Jim Fox Oberding spun right in front of St. John. I was waiting for St. John to come up there and hit Oberding. Somehow he cut to the inside and avoided him.
Yes, he did. I was amazed. I didn't quite see that from my angle, Kevin, but we continue to watch Mike's car. It has to be a nerve-wracking situation to drive that car with the way it's bobbing up and down and changing the way that car's handling all the time. Dwayne Lee's having a mighty, mighty tough row to hoe to get back into the contention here.
And you see the cars coming to the restart with 48 minutes and 30 seconds left to go in this race. It'll be nose to tail, one-on-one, St. John in 3 versus Dawsey in number 1. St. John slides through turns number 1 and 2 in the lead. Dawsey comes down on the attack out of turn number 2. They have to watch out for cars all over the place. St. John outbraves Dawsey into turn number 3. It's a match race between St. John in 3 and Dawsey in 1. Neither driver gives way, and St. John has the lead, almost crashes in the first turn as he slides high. Dawsey comes down to the inside. They'll come through the intersection at full speed with Dawsey back in the lead in the number 1 and second place to the number 3 of Mike St. John. They have to watch out for David Reel's number 22, who is smoking at the intersection. Reel may have stalled in the number 22. He tries to get back underway. It crawls through the intersection. There are the leaders almost running into Reel. The number 1 of Dawsey has the lead. St. John bounced off DeWitt's number 68, but maintains the speed. He comes to the intersection between Newkirk and Carpenter's cars in second place, working the 283rd lap. Dawsey slows down to the intersection because of slower cars. That lets St. John stay within striking distance in the number 3. A classic one-on-one shootout between first and second place. And oh wow, the 99, a box I was certain was going to crash into the number 9 of Basham. And now the number 68 of DeWitt hits the number 96 of Rogers, collecting the number 16 of Loving, and DeWitt has a broken water line and is stalled in a precarious position. DeWitt's trying to back out of the way. Now he's trying to drive out of the way. I have no idea where DeWitt's going, but his car is literally going up in smoke. Through all of this, here come the leaders through. Watch out, Curtis Murphy. Here comes Dawsey in 1 and St. John in 3. Those drivers continue to battle hard for the World Championship with 46 minutes and 34 seconds left to go in the race. Dawsey has 2 lanes on Mike St. John going into the second turn. Watch out at the intersection of 27 of Deal and Newkirk and 10 almost took each other out of the race for good. And now Bedell in number 11 almost clips the number 16 of Loving. And here come the leaders into a gauntlet of 12 cars. St. John tries to get Dawsey caught behind the number 10 of Newkirk, but St. John's caught behind the 779 of Gaddis. They storm into the third turn of the 287th lap, 288th lap, we should say. They come out of the fourth turn. Mike St. John almost ran into the Walker DeWitt car. And Dawsey holds on to the position. He goes into turn number 1 and 2 right on Dawsey's tail in heavy traffic. Crossover will be empty this time as they work the 289th lap. Now Dawsey loses the lead to St. John. Dawsey got caught in traffic in 3 and 4, and St. John comes back to the lead. St. John with a car that has to be damaged is running up in front. And Dwayne Lee in the third place car is having the worst luck possible. Every time Dwayne Lee turns to try to pass another car, there is another car in his way. St. John had to hit the brakes to keep from hitting Rogers at the crossover, gave the lead back to Dawsey, the number 1, just as Steve Prime with the flat tire drops onto the backstretch of the number 59. Dawsey has 4 to 7 car lengths. Now, trouble because that tire that came off of Prine's car with the wheel still attached has flopped down into the middle of the racetrack in turn number 3. It's been clipped by the number 9 of Leonard Basham, and even on the yellow, the 10 of Dwayne Lee has trouble because he had to cut in front of Dawsey. We saw Steve Prine's 59 car slow down and stop on the backstretch. We thought it was just a flat tire. Then we took another look. It was more than a flat tire. It was a missing tire and wheel assembly off of the right front of that car. And so Steve Prine walks away. He's okay. The car is going to need just a bit of work because who knows exactly what pulled loose there. From this angle and distance, we might be able to look at the center section of that wheel.
During the...
Well, hold on for a second. Larry Harris, we just heard somebody on the radio. Was that you?
Yeah, Kevin, just wanted to tell all the fans I'm all right. We're going to try to talk to a few more people here in just a little bit.
steering shaft broke under the car and hit me in the chest. Okay, though, Snyder car will be back next year, and we'll find something to talk about for you here in the pits in a minute. All my fans, hello.
Larry, you're the first person I want to talk to about that crash you had. What happened out there? It looks like you got wrecked big time.
Yeah, I really didn't see what happened, Kevin. I looked for an opening and went through it, and next thing I saw was a blue bumper and the steering wheel hitting me in the chest and the neck, and they told me later it was a 21 car Bobby Dalbert, but I've really never seen what happened. That's just how fast and intense the action is, and I'll tell you what, the race is winding down, but it's anybody's race still yet. There's a lot of fast cars out there.
Yeah, Larry, what does it feel like to be going through the intersection, minding your own business, and suddenly, wham, it looks like everything falls out of the sky in front of you?
Well, after you get over the startleness of it, find it hard to breathe. Feel like I got an instant sore throat. Probably be a little sore in the morning, but it's really a rush. It's hard to describe. It's just, you go from, I was cruising along, had my own rhythm, going real content, and it's like, well, the world ended for me. So it's really a strange feeling, and I'm kind of disgusted now, but that's part of racing. That's part of the 3 hour. Okay, now we'll go back to our good friend, Jim Fox. You're about ready to say something before we talk to Larry Harris. The inevitable question, how does it feel to crash out of the World Championship of Figure 8 Racing? He's learned it, you've learned it, now what's next?
Well, Kevin, I was watching in this last segment of laps, in between lap about 275 and 285, Jack Dawsey and Dwayne Lee were meeting at the crossover, and it was any man's go. One was in front, one was behind. Dwayne Lee was really having to work to stay with Jack because of the traffic that was around him.
Now we get set for the restart of this contest. We go back to green as we start lap number 293. Mike St. John carries it hard to the outside of the number 3, battling with the number 1 of Jack Dawsey Jr. They cut through the intersection in full speed with cars right in front of them. They do not back down. The number 1 of Dawsey holds on to the advantage through turns number 3 and 4. They cut through the intersection, having to watch for Rogers in 96. And Dawsey has maybe 2 lengths on Mike St. John. We have 41 minutes and 50 seconds of racing left in this World Championship for 1994. Dawsey holds on to the advantage. St. John runs in second. Dwayne Lee, a quarter lap back in third place, is trying to bust his way out of that pack. Now at the intersection as the 9 of Leonard Basham almost get hit by 4 cars. Dawsey and St. John, watch out for Scott Fox, who in turn almost got the number 74 of Dale Canals. Everybody takes a deep breath and tries it again. The number 72 of Mike Nelson tried to come back into the racetrack with his right side bodywork missing. He's not doing too well so far. Now St. John almost got clipped by the number 66 of Carpenter. That slows him down. Dawsey, the intersection, has to get the brake sweep, getting into the number cars of Witten, and the number 76 of Martin. That allows the St. John to get that much closer. At the intersection again, Dawsey is starting to get no brakes whatsoever in the traffic, and St. John is taking advantage of that. And the number 10 of Dwayne Lee holding back about a half lap back in third place. Of course, in figure 8 racing, if you're exactly a half lap behind somebody else, you crash into him in the intersection. Dawsey in 1, St. John in 3, through the crossover. The number 10 of Dwayne Lee right in front of them. They skate around the number 33 of Doug Gregg, who's had more than his share of crashes this evening. Now Dwayne Lee cuts between the leading 1 of Dawsey and the number 3 is St. John. Dawsey makes a quick move to the inside of Watkins, 52. St. John follows him through but washes out in the 4th turn and falls a little further behind Dawsey. 40 minutes and 25 seconds left in the World Championship for 1994. St. John now losing out in the battle of traffic. Dawsey is making the better moves through traffic and bit by bit is pulling away as he comes through the intersection and almost gets into the 99 of Box. But Mike St. John is having no luck whatsoever in traffic. And my stopwatch shows the gap between first and second place has now grown to 1.6 seconds, which is a big lead by the standards of this World Championship race. Now St. John makes up the gap down to 0.7 of a second. At the intersection, the number 17 of Donnie Garrigus spun and almost collected the number 10 of Dwayne Lee, and Ken Gibson was also there in the number 95. Mike St. John continues to maintain the pursuit.
Mike got hit both sides going through this.
And our analysis guy, Jim Fox, you're saying that Mike St. John was lucky to get out of that one without being crushed?
He got hit in the right side by car number 66 and number 17 in the left rear quarter. Mike's having the back end of his car beat off just a little bit at a time.
But fortunately, there's no more body work there to beat off, as it were. Now we're coming down to, watch out, there's Dwayne Lee trying to cut through the intersection. There is no place for Dwayne Lee to go, and he goes one lap down. That was incredible, Jim Fox. Dwayne Lee was coming through there, minding his own business. There was a wall of metal there. Dwayne Lee tried to make the escape, and he's lucky he's still got a race car.
He has had nothing but bad brakes at the crossover. In the last probably 20, 25 laps, he's always been in the wrong place and had to get off the accelerator and get on the brakes or dive slower cars or make traffic. He's lucky to be still in the contention here.
And the number 1 of Jack Dawsey Jr. has the lead. Second place, St. John is 1.3 seconds back. One car, the number 35 machine, has stalled over the south end of the racetrack up against the wall. We're going to hold on to a standing green flag here, but the starter, John Aldridge, does have the yellow in his hand and may be considering a slowdown here for a moment to retrieve that number 35 car. Through all of this, Mike St. John continues to pursue Jack Dawsey Jr. Gap is 9/10 of a second, about 3 car lengths. Now there's St. John right on Dawsey's tail as they are forced high above slower traffic with 38 minutes left to go in this race. There's Dawsey in 1 and St. John in 3 going underneath that stalled car on the wall. But again, we'll let that car sit there as long as it is not an immediate hazard to anybody else. Now the leaders are cutting around Robbie Loving's car. St. John is trying to get Dawsey caught between cars as that Dawsey cuts between the cars of Gaddis and the number 16R of Roger Vincent to keep on pursuing for the lead. At the intersection, Dawsey just barely massaged the brakes to keep from running into Scott Martin. Martin's been in the middle of more excitement than maybe anybody else tonight. And Dawsey squares off the corner, looks for room in the intersection and finds it with Mike St. John continuing to be in pursuit. 1 1/2 laps down. In third place is the number 10 of Dwayne Lee. Dwayne Lee has been trying everything to hold on to the lead lap of this race and now finds himself 1 lap down. The laps continue to wind themselves down in open traffic. It appears that Dawsey has the advantage. But when they run into heavy encounters, it looks as if St. John starts to shine. Right now, they're running into moderate traffic on all sides as we're starting to gradually run out of cars for the last sequence of this World Championship of Figure 8 racing, down to maybe 30 cars on the racetrack right now. Mike's watch shows the gap at about 1 second between first and second place as Mike St. John, the number 3, maintains his dogged and determined pursuit of Dawsey, the number 1. Dawsey tries to move around the number 16 of Robbie Loving in the crossover. Mike St. John has to watch out for the number 10 of Dwayne Lee. Working through the second turn of lap number 312 at the intersection. Oh no! Mike St. John speared Newkirk's number 10. St. John tried to maintain his pursuit of Dawsey and ran right into the Newkirk car. And now Dawsey has to make sure he doesn't run into Newkirk as well. St. John pulls his car off to one side. His race may be over as St. John kind of pounds the steering wheel in disgust. He used up the back end of his car, and we are going to yellow. And finally, it looks as if we are down to 1 car on the lead lap. Mike St. John will try to limp his car off the racetrack. You can see the car still bounding about. St. John's car is running pretty good for a machine that just got hit in the crossover that hard, but St. John may have stalled that car as well, trying to get the car into the pit area and make emergency repairs so St. John can at least preserve some degree of pride here.
Here, Mike St. John's pit. Mike, have they told you what's wrong with the car yet? A little front end damage, tire rods and stuff. Just thank God it wasn't that boy's driver's door because I promise you they'd be hauling him out of here. He's right there in the thick of things. It's going to hurt you on the laps. You going back out? Oh, yeah, we'll be back out there. Might take us 5, 8 laps to fix this thing, but we're going to drive as hard as I was, you know. It was between me and Jack, and, you know, now Jack's in the catbird seat, Dwayne, so but I'll be back out there. All right, good luck to you, Mike. Thank you.
So you heard Mike St. John. Mike St. John does definitely intend to get back into this one. He acknowledges he will lose the better part of 5 to 8 laps as a result of that crash with the number 10 of Wayne Newkirk. So Mike St. John sees his chances of winning the World Championship for 1994 starting to ooze away into the darkness. but with a diminishing number of minutes and seconds left to go in this race, with 31 minutes and 18 seconds left in this contest, here's the restart, and for the first time tonight, the 1993 world champion finds himself on a lap to himself. We had 4 cars on the lead lap, then 3 cars, then 2 cars running on the lead lap, and now Dawsey has a lap over the number 10 of Dwayne Lee. Now, of course, the thing we'll watch is whether Dwayne Lee can get his lap back from Dawsey. Dwayne Lee still finds himself 1 lap back, and again, the difference that made Dwayne Lee 1 lap back was simply bad luck at the crossover. Dwayne Lee got caught up at the intersection by heavy traffic, had to slow down, and fell 1 lap down to the leading number 1 of Dawsey. Now Dwayne Lee is trying to get that lap back, but he is in heavy traffic behind about 10 cars coming out of the second turn as Dawsey cuts through a relatively empty intersection about a half lap ahead. Dwayne Lee is stuck in 3 abreast racing as Gaddis and Turner and Johnson almost all collide coming out of the intersection. And Dwayne Lee still in that intense heavy traffic with no place to go. And now we're coming down to the end game, as the chess players would put it. The 2-minute warning, as the football guys could call it. The 18th hole, the 9th inning, all of those sports cliches you can think about it in the world of the World Championship of Figure 8 Racing. It is 30 minutes left to go, Jim Fox, and this is where we find out who the champions really are.
Attrition, crossover traffic, cars that can last. It's going to be a tough one, Kevin. Jack Dawsey just got caught up in the crossover, some of the traffic that Dwayne Lee's had to contend with, and now Dwayne has picked up that.
Oh, look at that! Dawsey almost got destroyed by the Johnson 93. I was sitting here waiting for the crash, Jim Fox.
Yes, I was talking, and I quit talking because I thought it happened.
Oh, there is a crash. Rogers, the 96, spears the number 16 of Robbie Loving coming through the intersection. The rest of the cars managed to cut their way through that crossover. Rogers with steam from his car. Loving, the number 16 car, is disabled. Look at this, both cars are able to drive away. No, well, at least the number 16 car is, but now Rogers gets back underway. He's driving away. He's leaving a pretty good sized puddle of oil and water in the intersection. And now in the intersection, the car Bedell almost hit the number 16 of Robbie Loving. Now you take a look there. There's Robbie Loving at the number 16. He just got hit at the intersection by another car. He's driving even harder now, Jim Fox.
There's a lot of water right at the crossover, and that's going to play critical in this corner. There's a lot of water. If somebody hits that, they can take it all the way to the corner and miss that turn.
So far, everybody is managing to survive over that water and oil that spilled out of the number 16 car. Watch out as the car of Robbie Loving just barely survives another encounter with Leonard Basham's number 9L. We now have 28 minutes and 10 seconds left to go in the World Championship of Figure 8 Racing. The time, 3-hour Figure 8 endurance race, and Dawsey continues to hold on to the lead. The number 10 of Dwayne Lee has not been able to match Dawsey's pace, has not been able to come close to matching that pace through this sequence of the contest. And in fact, Dawsey is closer to catching up to Dwayne Lee than Lee is to getting to Dawsey and getting that lap back. Still, even with the cushion of a car that may be the superior performer, and even with that advantage, you know that it's still got to be a little nervous. Now, what does Dawsey do here in the last sequence of this race? You know, he's got to take it easy, but can he take it easy?
No, he has to keep racing. There's too much at stake to start taking your time now. There's too much traffic, too much time left. Jack's got to stay at it. Dwayne has got to find a position. Whoa, he's catching a lap tire there. He did get over the tire, almost. It's going to be tight. Dwayne's having a lot of bad luck and a rough road to hoe. He's taking the worst line possible, and Jack's making time on him.
And remember, Dwayne Lee has been in 2 big thundering crashes tonight here at the Indianapolis Speedrome. One should have destroyed the car, the other one nearly did. And through all of it, Dwayne Lee continues to persevere, and only one mistake in the intersection has put Dwayne Lee 1 lap down. Dawsey so far continues to run in first place, and here it comes. There is Dawsey in the number 1, right on the tail end of Dwayne Lee's number 10. the 1993 world champion is trying to put the 1992 world champion 1 lap down. Now, if that happens, it may be turn out the light, the party's over time, and there it is. Dwayne Lee let Dawsey go. No doubt there whatsoever. Dawsey responded to it by almost crashing into a couple of cars. I think the circumstance may be that Dwayne Lee is going to play this one out to the end. He's going to turn Dawsey loose. He's seeing how Dawsey is driving. He's figured if Dawsey's going to drive that hard, let him do it, and I'll sit back here and wait.
Probably that's what's going through. He cannot match Jack Dawsey's pace. He's sitting back, keeping his nose clean and hoping that Jack makes a mistake.
With 25 minutes and 45 seconds left to go in the 1994 World Championship of Figure 8 race, the number 1 of Jack Dawsey Jr. has now put the second place car of Dwayne Lee 2 laps down. We see circling around the car. We can peek back here and give you an unofficial rundown of your top 10. Dawsey has the lead. Second place would be Dwayne Lee. Mike St. John was in third place when he made the pit stops, and so far on our latest rundown, he stands in third place ahead of now Leonard Basham has scored as your fourth place car in the number 9L. Unofficially in fifth place would be Eddie Deal in the number 27. Unofficially in sixth place, you'd have the number 4F of Rich Fenwick, and then in seventh place you'd have the number 87 of Danny Turner. Unofficially in 8th place, the number 21 of Bobby Dalton. Unofficially in 9th place you'd have the number 11 B of Gary Bedell. Unofficially in 10th place you'd have Scott Martin in car number 76. Again, that's your unofficial top 10 rundown as we come down to the closing stages of this race. And as we watch Dawsey continue to put on the power and try to get back to put Dwayne Lee another lap down. As we glance at these standings, first off, you've got to be impressed with Leonard Basham, who is one of the alternates who has come further than any other alternate in this race so far to come from what was effectively 28th or 29th starting spot up to fourth place is quite a job. And also for the number 27 of Eddie Deal, who is one of the alternates to move into the top 5, that's also quite a feat, Jim Fox.
Yes, they have done excellent. Leonard has won this race before. He knows how to drive. He's a good, experienced driver. He's had some, tough breaks, but he's also made some good runs at it. Stays in it, stays hard on the throttle. He's going to be in contention.
We noticed that the number 99 of Scott Box spun unforced error coming out of the fourth turn as he clipped over a marker tire. Box gets restarted and keeps on rolling. And Eddie Deal is quite a story in the number 27. Deal came within a couple of hundredths of a second of getting a starting position based on qualifying time. He has been out there. He has bumped off a lot of different drivers. He's been bouncing and banging off various objects like other cars, but still, Eddie Deal in our most recent rundown was unofficially listed in sixth place, just ahead of Danny Turner, the number 87, who is shown in 7th place. Eddie Deal always has a lot of driving ability. He's really showing it tonight in his perseverance in this World Championship race.
Jack Dawsey's car is just absolutely handling immaculately. He's got all the power he needs. His car's hooking up. He's finding the holes. They seem to be opening up for him as the traffic thins out here. Dwayne Lee's got his job cut out for him. If he ever has a chance to catch him, Jack's going to have to make a mistake.
22 minutes, 45 seconds left to go in this year's World Championship of Figure 8 Racing. Dawsey heads to the intersection, takes it easy, came just across Watkins' number 52 car. Again, Dawsey is trying to put Dwayne Lee a second lap down. And I don't know how it happens, but every time you look up there, Dwayne Lee's in the middle of a pack of about a dozen cars, and Dawsey's pretty much by himself. Dawsey comes out of the fourth turn, completes lap number 345 with 22 minutes and 20 seconds left to go in this race. In the meantime, Dwayne Lee, who runs a couple of laps down, you mentioned it, Jim Fox, there he is. He's got 10 cars around him, and Dawsey's running pretty much free.
Yes, he is. Jack's handling and picking where he wants to be and how he wants to be there. Officially scoring, Kevin, Dwayne Lee is now 2 laps down, and Jack's about to put him the 3rd lap down.
And that shows Dawsey's control over this race car and how hard he is running there. We noticed the number 4F of Fenwick racing there with the number 27 of Deal. Fenwick was one of the favorites to win this race as they come to the intersection, get barely between Watkins and Basham. Those drivers are now racing each other for position. I stand corrected, they are racing each other on the racetrack. We have no immediate indication those drivers, Fenwick and 4F and the number 27 of Deal, are racing each other for position as we work through this World Championship of Figure 8 racing. And we're starting to run out of laps, and we're starting to run out of time. Now, let us make this note as we see the number 72 car, Mike Nelson, spin to short of the intersection, trying to avoid Ken Carpenter, and took out both of the Catrins, Jeff in the 21X, and the number 33 of Doug Gregg. I thought that was Rob Catrin. I stand corrected. That's a different car. Again, as we come down to the end of this race, we should make one note. First off, we're talking as if Jack Dawsey Jr. has a total insurmountable lead. Well, if everybody keeps on running at the same pace and the same things keep happening on the racetrack, the answer will be yes. Dawsey probably can't be touched. But we note first off that there are still 20 minutes and 40 seconds left in this World Championship of Figure 8 racing. And that means something in the range of 60 to 80 laps left to roll, and that means 120 to 180 laps, 160 moves through the intersection. Each time through the intersection is an adventure and an invitation to failure, an invitation to disaster, and a challenge and a dare as they come through the intersection, just like that, where Rich Fenwick and the 4F and the number 1 of Dawsey almost got into each other. These are hard-headed drivers. They're heading at each other in the intersection. Again, they're very close to colliding every time. Figure 8 racing is just that dangerous here at the Indianapolis Speedrome or any place where it is run, where even if you do have yourselves a 2-lap advantage or maybe a 3-lap advantage, as Dawsey in one is trying to put Dwayne Lee a 3rd lap down to the number 10, there are no guarantees, Jim Fox.
No, they're not. It's about to happen.
And there's the number 72 of Mike Nelson, unforced spinning right in front of the leaders in turn number 2. And now the number 10 of Dwayne Lee has to hesitate at the intersection. He does not want to hit the number 27 of Deal. And now this may be a bit of an ego battle between these drivers. Maybe Dwayne Lee, the 10, does not want to go another lap down to the number 1 of Dawsey. Now, if you get involved in an ego fight on the racetrack like this one, that's where you start to wreck.
That's where you start making mistakes, trying to hit holes that aren't there. Dwayne was driving pretty conservatively. Now he seems to be a little bit on the ragged edge again. He doesn't want to go another lap down. Oh, Fenwick just got missed.
And that's the driver we've been watching. Fenwick wants to get some laps back as well. He ran into the number 99 of Scott Box and spun him coming out of the 4th turn and came across the intersection just ahead of 4 drivers we'll be watching. 27 Deal, 10 Lee, 1 Dawsey, and 21 Douthit. Now they're splitting around the number 16 of Robbie Loving, and just getting around him on the inside is Dawsey. And there's the example of how luck and preparation are meaning opportunity for Dawsey. Dawsey went around the number 16 of Loving like he wasn't there. It took the number 10 of Dwayne Lee an extra lap to make that maneuver. That pretty much sums up what the changes have been like here at the Indianapolis Speedrome tonight. There's Dawsey coming through the intersection, and we saw Basham coming through there. I don't know if that was smoke that I saw coming from Basham's car or steam. I'm not sure. Basham stays out there in the number 9L. We are coming down to 18 minutes and 5 seconds left to go in the World Championship for 1994. We have run straight through with the exception of one brief red flag, which was displayed when the number 56 car of Jack Dandy burst into flame. The car was completely engulfed in fire. Dandy stopped the car, got out of the machine. He is unhurt. The car has been declared out of the race at this point. And through all of this, we've had a lot of drivers in this World Championship of Figure 8 racing who have been contenders for the lead. At one time, we had a 10-car pack going for the lead in the early stages of this race. Along with Dawsey, the number 1, we had the number 3 of Mike St. John, the number 10 of Dwayne Lee that was battling for the lead. Still on the racetrack and racing, although laps down, is the number 4 of Rich Fenwick that had the lead for a while, then fell back, got in a lot of collisions, and ended up dropping out of the pace. And we also had Rodney Sizemore, who was in the lead when he crashed out of the lead with about 30 or 40 minutes left to go in this contest. Charles Colts, the number 71, qualified well, fell back. George Sutton, involved in a couple of collisions, has dropped out of the race. Darren Sizemore disappeared early. Doug Gray got himself in too many crashes. Robert Amos, who started the race in 13th place, was involved in the first major crash of the night, came back out a couple of times, has now gone back into the pit area and has not returned to the racetrack. through all of this. The constants in the front of the field have been the number 10 of Dwayne Lee and the number 1 of Jack Dawsey Jr. But now Dawsey, over this last sequence of the World Championship of Figure 8 Racing, has taken firm and secure control. And with 6 minutes and 30 seconds left to go in the 1994 World Championship, Dawsey has now put Dwayne Lee 3 laps down. There is a diminishing number of cars on the racetrack. There is a diminishing number of laps left to go. We still see the occasional race car, such as Jack Smith's number 17, come onto the racetrack, but now we're getting to the point where this is pretty much where Dawsey wants to be. Big lead, small field, a few minutes left to go, in control.
And a car that's handling absolutely fantastically.
And we see the number 67 of Dennis Dameron. Remember that purple car that was pinned up on the wall over in turn number 3, needed 2 wreckers to bring it off the wall. Dameron took the car back into the pit area, put it back together, and he's out and racing again in the World Championship of Figure 8 Racing. There are a couple of words you can use for that. One of them is determination. I won't use the other word. We'll let Jim Fox tell you what he thinks about Dameron coming back onto the racetrack.
I don't know what he's trying to do here. He's way off of the pace. Now he stopped in the second turn here. I don't know whether he's stalled. No, he's back to moving again.
Well, there's Dameron back underway. And Dawsey still putting on a blistering pace as we're running short of laps. As Jack Dawsey Jr. starts his 368th lap. He comes through the intersection, splitting from between the Louisville area drivers Scott Box and Leonard Basham, with 15 minutes left to go in this World Championship of Figure 8 Racing. 15 minutes means something in the range of 40 to 50 laps of racing for Jack Dawsey Jr. in the number 1, which means something in the range of 90 to 100 turns through the intersection. One of those, a wide gap between the 21 of Bobby Dalton and the number 33 of Doug Gregg. Watching as the field cuts through and slides through the intersection, keeps on going. We're now working through the end of this contest. Again, by our reckoning, Mike St. John's position in this race by our scoring is falling further and further back. St. John had hoped he'd be able to get back into the race, but cannot do so. Leader is still the number 1 of Jack Dawsey Jr. by our reckoning. 3 laps over the number 10 of Dwayne Lee. Third place is the number 9L of Leonard Basham. Fourth place is the number 4F of Rich Fenwick. In 5th place, you've got the number 27 of Eddie Deal, as we see the 99 of Scott Box in once again. Box is kind of facing the wrong way, gets out of the way just as Dawsey comes through. Another bit of excitement for Dawsey there. Again, picking up the count of the laps. In 6th place is the number 3 of Mike St. John. He'll continue to go backwards unless he comes back onto the racetrack. In 7th place, 87 Danny Turner. 8th place is the number 21 of Bobby Dalton. 9th place now the 779 of Ray Gaddis. And in 10th place, the number 11B of Gary Bedell. Going further down the list, 11th place unofficially be the number 17 of Donnie Garrigus. In 12th place, the number 76 of Scott Martin. 13th place, the number 33 of Doug Gregg. In 14th place, the number 5R of Rodney Sizemore. Still completed enough laps to stay in the top 20. In 15th place, you have the number 2, the black number 2 of Jerry Whitten. 16th place would be the number 16R, the black number 16R of Vincent. Unofficially in 17th place, you would have, let's double check our scoring back there. In 17th place, you'd have the number 16 car, and that's the one scored as number 16 of Robbie Loving. 18th place would be the number 56. I don't believe it. Jack Dandy still in 18th place, as we see the number 76 of Scott Martin in the infield out of the race. 19th place would be the number 08 of Danny Apperson, and in 20th place, the number 66 of Curtis Murphy. Those are our unofficial standings all the way through 20th place. Some of these drivers have dropped out of the race. Among those that we are mentioning, Murphy is parked on the backstretch area of the oval, but everybody else continues to roll as we go through the closing laps of this World Championship race here at the Indianapolis Speedrome. And still Dawsey dominates, and still Dawsey cuts from between cars, and still Dawsey has one of the few unmarked cars on this racetrack, although he had a bit of a scare with Dameron. And we're watching some of these guys start to act a little crazy out here, Jim Fox.
I'm watching Leonard Basham. We were talking about Mike St. John's car. The back end of it kept bobbing up and down. Leonard Basham's car, the back end of it is like it's on an ice pond. I'm amazed he's still in the hunt here, but every time he goes through the corner, it's just like the back end is sliding all over the place.
And we've noticed it as we see Basham come through the intersection and hold up for the number 27 of Eddie Neal. He storms into the first turn. The car first pushes, and then it gets way loose like he's on dirt coming through turn number 2. The worst thing, and Dawsey ran over the marker tire, and now a collision. Gaddis gets clipped by the number 21X of Jeff Catron, all there in the second turn, almost taking out the number 16R car of Vincent and the number 26 of Begley. Again, just when you think you're safe and out of the way, somebody spins, and there's a 3 or 4 car chain reaction wreck right in front of you. And Dawsey almost got caught up in that one. He was forced over a marker tire. If you bounce up into the air and tear loose an oil or a water line in one of those bounces, goodbye World Championship.
Dwayne Lee's still in the hunt. He's been running here the last 15 laps, about a half lap down. He's actually 3 laps down, but about a half a track behind Jack. He hasn't lost any more ground, but he's sure not picking up any.
Well, there's the 99 of Scott Box spinning out the number 16 of Robbie Loving. Loving facing the wrong way on the exit of turn number 2. Loving gets back underway and cuts through the intersection just ahead of the number 33 of Doug Gregg and the 4F of Rich Fenwick. Now we're getting close to the real end game of this World Championship as Jack Dawsey Jr. comes on this 400 lap pace through the intersection and finishes lap number 382. The rest of the field continues to scatter out around him. It may be one of those circumstances where we no longer have cars that are racing for position on the same lap. But for Dawsey, you will look up on the scoreboard and see that he has 10 minutes left to go. Mark it at 10 minutes left to go in the World Championship of Figure 8 Racing. And we're watching as the cars go nose to tail through turns number 3 and 4. There's the number 17 of Donnie Garrigus, who spun in the third turn. Dawsey had to be quick to get underneath him. Garrigus almost pinned the number 9 of Leonard Basham to the wall. Garrigus' car, number 17, may have stalled over in turn number 3. Garrigus so far has given no indication that number 17 car can move. As cars are coming wide into turn number 3, then they have to cut down to the inside to get around Garrigus' machine. We can glance into the cockpit from this angle of distance and see a red light that is on, and we will now see the caution displayed. Will this be the final yellow of the night with 9 minutes and 20 seconds left to go in the World Championship of Figure 8 Racing?
Kevin, I don't know with this particular yellow flag whether that 400 lap mark will be achieved, but the pace that Jack Dawsey's been running, he would have easily made it up until this yellow flag.
And taking pit stops, we see Doug Gregg's number 33 moving off the racetrack along with the number 4F of Rich Fenwick. And the number 76, Scott Martin, the driver's gotten out of his car. That's something you used to do a lot, Jim Fox, during yellows and reds here at the Indianapolis Speedrome, trying to fix your car.
Unfortunately, they do break. It's nice if you can get it fixed. He's putting his hood back on. I thought he was going to put his hood back on. I think he's going to go ahead and try to fix it.
Well, you can do that for a couple of seconds, but after a while, the race officials will invite you to either get back into your car or get off the racetrack because, frankly, they don't like the idea of unprotected race drivers kind of hanging around out there. Now Scott Martin will slip back into the machine. I hope he doesn't do something crazy like run over the hood of his own car when he tries to drive away. He may have gotten so involved in fixing it, well, he just left the hood out there.
I believe that was the least of his worries, Kevin.
Race does not end on the clock. The race ends with the display of the checkered flag from the flagman. The race does not end on the clock. The race ends on the display of the checkered flag by the flagman. Again, the race ends on the display of the checkered flag by the flagman. As we come to the restart, Larry Harris, anything to pass on to us?
Kevin, Leonard Basham come in with just a flat tire. They did not jack the car up. 12 crew members lifted the car up and they changed the tire.
And there is 12 crew members for Leonard Basham. That must mean everybody that he brought up from Jeffersonville was working on that car back there to pick it up without any jacks. We see the number 17 of Donnie Garrigus back onto the racetrack after the car restarted after it stalled, and so Garrigus will try to run the final laps of this race. 389 laps. That 389th underway now for Dawsey in the number 1, who now has 6 minutes and 50 seconds before his second consecutive World Championship of Figure 8 racing here at the Indianapolis Speedrome. Continues the 3-lap advantage over Dwayne Lee as he streaks through the intersection, and there it is. Dawsey all by himself, Dwayne Lee in 3 abreast traffic. I mean, there's got to be some reason for that.
It's just the luck of the draw. You get caught back in those slower cars. Sometimes you can't see, so you take it a little cautious at the crossover and so forth. You can't break free. Once you break free, you can see easily, you can pick your holes better, and you can drive at your particular pace.
And Jack Dawsey Jr.'s pace continues to be intense and full speed as he moves around Ray Gaddis's 779. Now tries to go to the inside of the much torn up number. There's Dawsey bouncing over a marker tire, and somebody's leaking a lot of water on the racetrack again. There's a whole stream of water, oil all over the track, and I wonder from which car that is coming. This is slowing Dawsey around.
I don't know, but it could be dangerous at this point. Tires are worn, and that track's going to be slick with that water on it.
Now let's watch and see. We had gotten some indication as Dwayne Lee almost gets hit by Ken Carpenter, the indication. We gotten some indication that one car or another out there had been given a black flag, but no indication. It was the 27 of Eddie Deal, we're told, that was getting a black flag out onto the racetrack, and Eddie Deal has now been taken into the pit area for repairs of that number 27. Closer and closer to the conclusion of the World Championship of Figure 8 Racing. Jack Dawsey Jr. continues to run pretty much trouble-free. He's had maybe one spin, maybe one collision. He has run over the mark. Wow, Dawsey almost crashed it all the way in turn number 1 of lap 395. That was closer than it looks, Jim Fox.
That's what I think he got caught in that water, got a little light, and drifted a little higher in that corner than he wanted to go.
Well, unless that's his deliberate line going high, maybe that's the circumstance. He's going high through that corner, trying to avoid the water. In any case, Jack Dawsey Jr. with 4 minutes and 40 seconds left to go in the 1994 World Championship of Figure 8 Racing in the Indianapolis Speedrome. Times it between Prine's 59 and the number 17 of Garrigus. Remember Prine? He lost a wheel. There's another wheel that's fallen loose out of a car. And I hope it's not Prine again. In any case, we're going to watch that wheel as it came flying off a car. I think it was off of Douthit's machine. And we're going to come down to yellow. Yeah, Dobby Douthit's number 21 is sitting in the infield on the north end of the racetrack with the wheel completely off of it. We're going to put our glasses on it. This is a major failure. The entire brake disc and rotor is still inside of the wheel. Now we take a look at Douthit's car. It's sheared completely off at the rear axle. The entire rear brake assembly, rotor, caliper, and everything came flying off that car, and Douthit now sits in the infield over the north end of the racetrack with only 3 minutes and 38 seconds left to go in the race.
I believe that's probably fatigue on that part, Kevin. I did not see him come in contact with anybody. It just came off. That's fatigue is taking its toll, and hopefully Jack won't experience that. He's doing extremely well. The field is his. The track is his. His car's running perfectly. We just hope that Jack keeps his nose clean, and I think he'll come home with a checkered flag.
And on top of that, another thing that's going to slow our restart is Kelly Fegley decided to get out of his car and look at the back end of it right here in the middle of the crossover. Jack Dawsey says, "Thank you very much. I'd like to have a little extra yellow time myself." He'll get pushed off the racetrack. Douthit's number 21 will stay in the infield, and he'll be invited by USAC track worker John Mims to exit the race car as the A&A record comes there. At the same time, Fegley will have to decide what he's going to do with the number 26. He acts like he's just going to kind of leave it there. In any case, we now have 2 minutes and 35 seconds left to go in the World Championship.
And car number 59 exiting with a flat tire here on the restart.
Well, that's Prine's had a couple of flat tire, and he had a wheel come off completely as well. So it may be, are we going to end this one under caution, or are we going to have the track workers do a fast job here and tow Fegley's car away? That'll be the case. Fegley will go off, and so will the car. Again, we want to make sure everybody is aware of the rules under which this race will end. The race will end with the display of the checkered flag from the flagman. When you see the clock go to 3 hours exactly, watch for flagman John Aldridge to put out the checkered flag. The race ends on the display of the checkered flag and not on the clock. Jim Fox, go ahead.
just as Jack Dawsey, I happened to be looking here, I could see inside the car, he was yelling at the record drivers to hurry it up. He wants to break that 400 lap mark. He was shaking his fist at him and turning in a circle like, let's go, spin it faster, guys, let's get it off the track.
And Jack Dawsey Jr. is now working that 400th lap here, but we now have 1 minute and 30 seconds to go. And it'll be the first time in 8 years that we have exceeded 400 laps in the World Championship of Figure 8 Racing. There'll be a couple of other cars that will come back onto the racetrack, but now we'll be down to 1 minute here shortly. 1 minute and 15 seconds left to go in the 1994 World Championship of Figure 8 Racing, and Jack Dawsey Jr. maintains that advantage. And as we come out of the fourth turn, we have 1 minute left to go. 1 minute exactly to go in the World Championship of Figure 8 Racing. It has gone pretty much all the way Jack Dawsey Jr.'s way in the number one. A driver who was not even in figure racing at the beginning of the Midwest Figure 8 season in 1994. It was about midway through the season that Jack Dawsey Jr., who was running a United States Auto Club modified, came back into Figure 8 racing and hooked back together with Joe Simpson, the car owner with which he had won the Speedrome Championship and the World Championship last year. Now, with 25 seconds left to go in the World Championship of Figure 8 Racing for 1994, there is the number one of Jack Dawsey Jr. running right behind the General Tire Figure 8 Challenge champion in the number 4F Rich Fenwick. Only a couple of seconds left to go. Here's the count: 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, and 3 hours have elapsed. Now we watch for John Aldridge, the flag man, to display the checkered flag to the number one of Jack Dawsey Jr., the second generation driving star, who for the second year in a row is the world champion of Figure 8 Racing and goes into his victory spin. Jack Dawsey Jr. by a 3-lap margin over the 1992 World Figure 8 champion, Dwayne Lee. Again, here is your unofficial reckoning of the top 20 in the World Championship. The winner, Jack Dawsey Jr. in number one. Second place, 10, Dwayne Lee. Third place, 9L, Leonard Basham. Fourth place, 4F, Rich Fenwick. Fifth place, 27, Eddie Deal. Sixth place, 87, Danny Turner. Seventh place, 21, Bobby Dalton. Eighth place, the number 3 car, which would be Mike St. John. In 9th place, you'd have the number 779 of Ray Gaddis. In 10th place, the number 17 of Donnie Garagos. And for our first victory interview, we go down to Larry Harris, who has the winning World Championship car owner.
Last year, Kevin, I talked to Joe Simpson. He was doing the same thing. Joe, congratulations, buddy. Thank you. Hey, you'll get it 2 in a row. Yes, it does. Just start make this happen for me. Well, it'll be nice. He looked good, didn't he? Yes, he did. Congratulations to you, buddy. You deserve as good as anybody does. Thank you, sir. All right. That's it, Kevin.
And Joe Simpson will be coming out shortly to the start-finish area here for the victory interview with Jack Dawsey Jr. But first, Jack Dawsey Jr. goes over to John Aldridge and takes the checkered flag for one last victory lap. We'll open up the pits here in a second for everybody to go into the pits and visit all of the participants in this World Championship of Figure 8 Racing. The next event of the Indianapolis Speedrome next Saturday night will be the conclusion of the Indianapolis Speedrome regular season. The Speedrome Championship will be decided between Mike St. John and Rodney Sizemore in the 1-hour Figure 8 endurance race next Saturday. And of course, we are looking forward to the RCA Dome round of the General Tire Figure 8 Challenge on December 10th. But first, the interview with the winner of the second consecutive World Championship of Figure 8 Racing. Here he is, $8,000 to the better, winning again, Jack Dawsey Jr.
The engine is still running. The engine is shut off, and the victory as Jack Dawsey becomes the first repeat winner in 1991 when Mike St. John scored a repeat victory here. Our first 400 lap winner since 1986. With me at the start-finish line, we have the inaugural winner of the World Championship Figure 8 Endurance Race, Jim Fox. Jim, I'll turn it over to you for the trophy presentation and the winner's interview.
First of all, congratulations, Jack. You've done an excellent job. I also have to hand it to Joe's crew. Joe Simpson, the car owner, and his crew had this car absolutely prepared. You did a superb job driving, and I, fortunately, know what you're feeling like right now. Isn't it exciting to win it?
I'll tell you what, it's better than 6. I like to thank my car owner, Joe Simpson, and you don't even have to use a condom. I'd like to thank my car owner, Joe Simpson. Ron Thomasak built the car. Hart's Auto Parts. Fred Emery built the motor. Indy Towing. Baggett Tire. The Hoosier Tires force worked real good. John Lux helped us out there. I'd like to thank all the fans, the track. And I tell you what, Pete Harlow, Kenny Etter, Wayne Garner, Kent Murphy, everybody that's helped us, they did one hell of a job. And I'd just like to thank everybody.
Yes, Jack, as we were talking in the scoring tower as the race progressed, this car was absolutely performing flawlessly. You were getting right where you wanted to be, when you wanted to be there. You kept the throttle on all the way to the end. You were going for 400 laps, weren't you, Jack?
Well, you know as well as I do, you know, with you being a race car driver, that once you get in the rhythm, you know, the adrenaline up. I mean, you know, it just, to slow down would probably mess up the rhythm and stay there.
When you're in that rhythm and catching the holes the way you want them, you're right, Jack, you can't back off. You didn't. The car ran well. You came home to the checkered flag. Joe Simpson, I see him with a smile from ear to ear. Congratulations. You did a fine job preparing the car. And nothing away from you, Jack. You did an absolutely superb job all evening long, staying out of trouble, picking the holes when you needed to, and winning the race. Congratulations again, Jack.
Well, it's like Ron Thomasak taught me, to finish first, you first have to finish. I like to take my hat off to all the other drivers. We had a good time racing. It's unfortunate that Mike had his problems and Rodney had his, and Dwayne had theirs, but we all can't be winners, I guess. At least tonight was our night.
Tonight was definitely your night. Again, congratulations. And to the Speedrome fans, Jack Dawsey, the 1994 winner of the 3-hour endurance race. Al Stilling.
And the celebration now begins as Jack Dawsey Jr. and his crew begin their second consecutive celebration of a World Championship Figure 8 triumph at the Indianapolis Speedrome. The first time since 1986 we have gone over 400 laps, and the first time since 1991 that we have a repeat winner. Ladies and gentlemen, Jack Dawsey Jr. is your world champion again.